Good morning and welcome, everyone. Today is July 23rd, 2020. Some housekeeping matters before we begin our hearing today. During the declared emergency in the City of Toronto, Committee of Adjustment virtual public hearings are being conducted by electronic means through WebEx, an online digital platform, and streamed on the Toronto City Planning YouTube channel. These measures are necessary to comply with physical distancing requirements and a provincial order that limits attendance at public gatherings. This will be a virtual public hearing, and participants who have registered in advance will be able to make their presentations to the committee using WebEx, an online event that is being moderated by city staff. Anyone wishing to view the hearing may do so by watching on YouTube. Participants who have registered in advance will be connecting either by their computer, a phone or tablet app, or by telephone. All participants will automatically be muted on entry. When your item is called, each participant will be unmuted by the moderator, one person at a time. Only the committee members will be participating by video. All registered participants will be participating by audio only. We ask that you mute all of your personal devices, including the YouTube stream, when you're not speaking, to prevent transmission of background noise and minimize disruption to the meeting. Please unmute your computer microphones before speaking. Please ensure to mute the YouTube streaming while you are speaking. The hearing will take a slower pace. Each item will be stated, and then a moment will be given to allow everyone time to find their place. Please write down the WebEx meeting access code and attendee ID from your WebEx meeting invitation and keep it nearby for quick reference. If you are experiencing lag or audio issues, disconnect and call into the hearing and enter this information. The WebEx number, the phone-in number is 416-915-6530, access code 133-546-3470. Please call into the hearing with the phone number that you have registered with, so that staff can recognize your number and unmute you when your item comes up. Before we begin our hearing, we acknowledge the land we are meeting on is the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples, and is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples. We also acknowledge that Toronto is covered by Treaty 13 with the Mississaugas of the Credit and the Williams Treaty signed with multiple Mississaugas and Chippewa bands. In accordance with Section 45 and 53 of the Planning Act 1990 as amended, this meeting of the Committee of Adjustment for the City of Toronto is now called to order. The Committee of Adjustment considers applications for minor variances from the provisions of the zoning bylaw, permissions to extend or alter lawful non-conforming uses, and consents to create new lots. To ensure a fair and a timely hearing, I will vet the agenda to determine which applications can be dealt with immediately and which applications require a more in-depth review. Each speaker, including the applicant or the agent, will be given a maximum of 5 minutes to address the committee. I will comment when you're reaching the 5 minutes. When addressing the committee, please clearly state your name and address. Please remember to confine your remarks to the matters outlined in the application. The applicant or the agent will proceed first and will make a presentation to the Committee of Adjustment. Please note that the committee may not entertain revisions to the proposals at the hearing today. The committee may decide to defer the application if it's substantially revised, to ensure that the revised application is accurate and that all those entitled to notice of the application are informed of the changes. Then individuals either in support or opposition to the application will be invited to speak. Please ensure to include all your remarks or concerns that you may have. Committee members may ask questions of each speaker after they have finished the presentation. If there are several speakers sharing the same view and comments and concerns, please select a spokesperson to present the group's opinion. We certainly want to hear your views and concerns. However, covering the same points again will not advance your cause. Please be advised that all deputants at the hearing today will be given a chance to speak before the committee moves on to the applicant for the rebuttal or response to the deputants concerned. The chair will advise if there are any questions for the deputants. When all speakers are finished, the applicant or the agent has an opportunity to rebut only those issues that were raised by the speakers. Please note that unless committee members have any questions, the deputants will not get a chance to rebut the applicant's response. This will mark the end of the discussion. The application will then be taken into committee for a decision. The committee has received the minutes of the last meeting. Staff, we have not received the meeting minutes.
Through the chair, the minutes have not been received yet. They are currently being finalized.
Okay, thank you very much. So members of the committee, the minutes of the last hearing have not been received, and they will be, when received, they will be brought back to the hearing, and we will have a motion to adopt the minutes. Are there any declarations of interest of the panel or staff today?
Madam Chair, I have a declaration of conflict of interest for item 1, 300 Silver Star Boulevard. I was the planning consultant for this company when they went through the original rezoning application, and therefore I declare conflict.
Thank you, Member Macaulay. Staff, please note that Member Macaulay has a conflict on item number 1. Thank you very much. Moving on. Mr. Deputy Secretary Treasurer, have you received any requests for deferral today?
Through the chair, we do have a request for deferral for item 14. After mailing the public notice, the agent was advised by Toronto Building that an additional variance is required for front yard parking. The agent has agreed to defer this item and reschedule the application for August 13th hearing, and a revised notice has been prepared and will be mailed out to area residents shortly.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ramdale. We have on the list of participants today, Mr. Leo Mastrangia, and I believe he's the agent, and he has requested that deferral. So do we need to check in with him at this point, or can we proceed with the motion?
You should check in with through the chair, you should probably check with the applicant.
Okay, thank you very much. This is item 14. Mr. Mastrangia, are you online with us?
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
Thank you. Members of the committee, do you have any questions for Mr. Mastrangia? Mr. Mastrangia, we understand that you have requested for a deferral. There was some error in the notice.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Members of the committee.
For Hollyberry, right?
This is
147 Hollyberry?
Yes.
Hollyberry?
That's correct.
Yeah.
So it is 147 Haleyberry Drive, and we have a request from you for deferral. I will just confirm with committee members if they have any questions or not. If not, then we will proceed with the motion on this item. Members of committee, if there are no questions, may I have a motion?
Madam Chair, I would move then that we defer this particular application to a subsequent meeting.
Thank you. May I have a seconder, please?
Madam Chair, I will second this motion for deferral of the application on item number 14.
Thank you. We have a seconder. All in favor of this motion? The motion's carried. Mr. Mastrangia, your application has been deferred to the next hearing, or you will have to consult with the staff to confirm the hearing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Any further requests for deferral, Mr. Ramdale?
Through the chair, no other requests.
Okay, thank you very much. We will now proceed with vetting the agenda. I will call each item in the order listed on the agenda and ask if anyone other than the agent or the applicant is present in interest and wishes to address the committee. If there are people in interest, the matter will be held until all non-contested applications have been cleared from the agenda. If there are persons in interest, present in interest, the agent or the applicant will proceed with the presentation if required. The committee may ask questions or take the matter into committee for decision. Thank you. Where's Anne? Oh, conflict. Oh, she has a conflict. Okay. I noticed she was there. Okay. So we're going to move forward with vetting the agenda. We have item number 1 on the agenda, 300 Silver Star Boulevard. We have on the list of deputants, Mr. Randall Dickey. Mr. Dickey, are you online with us?
I am. Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Thank you. Members of the committee, do we have any questions for Mr. Dickey at this time?
None from me, Madam Chair.
Okay. I do not see any deputant on this application that has registered to speak to it. Mr. Dickey, you are aware of the transportation report, I believe, and there are no objections, and TRCA has no objections as well.
Correct. Yes, I am aware of that.
Okay. Members of the committee, if there are no questions for Mr. Dickey, may I have a motion on this application, please?
Madam Chair, I would like to move the motion for approval of item number 1, and I believe this is a minor variance, no conditions from transportation or TRCA. So I move the motion for approval of this application.
Thank you. May I have a seconder, please?
Madam Chair, I would second the approval of that application. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. All in favor of this motion? Motion's carried. The application for 300 Silver Star Boulevard has been approved.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair and members of committee.
Thank you very much. Item number 2, 60 Wilkie Avenue. We have, this is an application for a consent, and I believe there are associated minor variances as well. Okay. We have with us the agent, Mr. Jerusik. Mr. Jerusik, are you with us?
I am here.
Okay. And then we have a long list of participants who have registered for this item. Do you want me to do, sorry? Just one? For item 2? Oh, that's item 3. Sorry about that. Okay. We have Teresa Cameron. Teresa, are you with us?
Yes, I am. Good
Oh.
morning.
Good morning. So I understand you have some concerns with this application and you would like to speak to it. So we would hold down this item and come back to it when we resume to the main meeting, okay?
Okey doke.
Thank you. Please stay with us. Item number 3. So item number 2 has been held. Item number 3 is 7 Broadmead Avenue. And this is the one that has a long list of speakers. This is a consent application that had lapsed. We have with us, do we have Mr. Jerusik with us?
I am still here.
Okay, thank you very much. And I will do a roll call just to confirm that we have the deputants that have registered with us. We have Robert McGowan. Are you with us?
Yes, I am.
Thank you. Beverly Wallace. Beverly, are you with us?
Yes, I'm here. Good morning.
Good morning, thank you. Peter Hogg.
Yes, good morning. I'm here, and actually, I'm speaking with everybody else. They're going to cover my points, so you can take my name off the list. Obviously, registering my opposition, but I don't need to speak and waste your time any further. Okay.
Okay, thank you very much, Peter. Heather Wright.
Yes, I'm here, but there are other people are going to cover my points.
Okay.
So I don't need to speak today.
Okay. Just so you know, we will be holding down this item for further deliberation, but I'm going through the roll call just to make sure that we have all of you who have registered with us today, okay? Ryan Coughlin.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Yes, I will speak today on 7 Broadmead.
Thank you, Ryan. Trevor Wilson.
Hey, Trevor's here. I'll speak as well.
Thank you. Paul Steinberg.
Oh, hello. Yeah, I'm here, and I've spoken with the neighbors, and just to avoid repetition, they're going to cover the points that I had, so I will not be speaking on this application.
Okay, thank you, Paul. Natasha Taylor?
I am here today to speak to a different property. So perhaps there's a little bit of confusion or leftover. I know this item was deferred. The neighbors for 7 Broadmead will discuss anything I have to say. So I won't be speaking about this property, but I will be speaking later in the agenda.
Okay, thank you, Natasha. We have noted. Robert Brown?
Yes, I am here.
Okay, thank you, sir. And you will be speaking to this item?
Yes, I will.
Okay, thank you. So we have quite a few participants and residents who would like to speak. So we will hold down this item and come back to it when we have completed vetting the agenda. Thank you very much and please stay with us. Item number 4, 24 Tardry Place. This is an application that's before us to construct a new 2-story detached garage in the rear yard. I will do a roll call. Dimitri Bazios, are you with us?
Yes, I am. I'm here.
Okay, thank you. I do not see any other registered participant for this item. Members of the committee, do you have any questions for Mr. Bazios at this time?
Madam Chair, I have a couple of questions for the applicant.
Okay, thank you. So, Mr. Bazios, our committee members have a few questions for you. We also have a staff report from community planning recommending refusal. So we will hold down this item and come back to it.
Can I defer this application? I spoke to my client. Is it possible to defer it for the next meeting?
So you're requesting for deferral to the next meeting. We will have to, okay, I'll have to take the matter into consideration with committee members to see if there's a willingness there. So, members of the committee? Yes, that's a good question. Mr. Bazios, I've just been advised, what's the purpose of the deferral request?
Well, my client would like to change the stairs, remove the stairs from the outside, make it inside, reduce the size of the building from 113.72 square meters to a more reasonable, closer to 60 meter that the zoning bylaw. So we just want to make it as close to the zoning bylaw as possible. So my client is willing to shrink the building to make it more closer to the zoning bylaw.
Okay, and that will of course affect the variances that are before us today.
Yes, yes.
Okay, thank you. I have some advice from staff. Staff, please go ahead.
Through the chair, if the applicant wishes to revise their minor variances, they just need to be aware that it may not be considered in time. We have to send out the notices for the next hearing, and that's next week. So it may not be heard at the next hearing. So the applicant just needs to be aware of that.
Okay. Mr. Bazios, did you hear that?
Yes, that's fine. We can do it for the following after that. That's not a problem.
Okay, so I suggest that you contact city staff to confirm the deadlines and submission requirements. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you for that. Members of committee, we have a request for deferral. The purpose, as you heard, is to modify the application and the proposal that will impact the variances that are requested. So do we have a position on this? Okay.
Madam Chair, I will recommend deferral of this application at the applicant's request.
Thank you very much. We have a seconder?
Yes, Madam Chair. I would second that motion to defer. Yes.
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor, and we have a seconder to defer this application to a later hearing. May I have all in favor of this motion? Thank you. Mr. Bazios, your application has been deferred until a later hearing.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Item number 5, 56 Allister Avenue. This is an application to construct a new story detached dwelling, and we have 5 variances before us. We have listed as the agent, Mr. Peter Jerusik. Mr. Jerusik, you are
I'm
online with
here.
us? Okay.
Yes, I am.
Okay. You'll be here for quite a few items today. Okay. We also have registered with us David. David, are you online with us?
Yes, I am.
Okay. And we also have Renee. Renee, are you with us?
Yes, I am.
Okay. All right. So we have David and Renee, and I'm assuming that you have concerns with this application?
That is correct. Yes, both of us do.
Okay. So because there are concerns with this application and this would require additional discussion, we will hold down this item and come back to it. Okay.
Okay.
Okay, moving to item number 6, 144 Harding Boulevard. This is an application to construct a new detached dwelling, and there are some variances before us. There are 3 variances before us. We have, for item number 6, 144 Harding Boulevard, the agent, Mr. Jerusik.
I'm still here.
Okay, and then I'll do a roll call just to confirm I have all online that have registered to speak today. So we have Sionade Lynch. Sionade Lynch. Okay, I will continue.
Hi, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can now hear you. We just,
Oh, great. Thanks.
no problem. We were just doing a roll call to make sure that the participants are here with us. Ian and Joel Reed, are you here with us?
Yes, Ian is here.
Thank you. Gray Graffam.
Yes, I'm here, and my wife. I'll be the only one speaking.
Thank you. So Susan is your wife, I'm assuming, and you will speak today. Okay.
That is correct, yes.
Okay. Stephanie Burke.
Through the chair, this person has not logged in today.
Okay, thank you. John Beer and Janine Morrison.
Yeah, I'm here.
Thank you.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Thank you very much, John. Just stay with us. I'm just doing a roll call here. Mark Singleton and Rita Kelly. Are you with us?
Through the chair, these people have not logged in today.
Okay. So that brings us to the end of this list. So we will hold down this item and come back to it for further discussion. Item number 7, 9 Linden Avenue. 9 Linden Avenue is an application before us to construct a new 2.5-story rear and south side addition, and the existing second story and attic will be demolished and replaced with new construction. We have before us 3 variances. I have on the list Lucy Sharp and Aaron Dixon as the agent and owner. Are you online with us, Lucy?
Yes. Hi.
Hi.
Yes, I'm with my husband, Aaron. Hi.
Hi. Hi, Lucy, and hi, Aaron. Thank you very much. Just stay with us. We have an interested party registered with us, Mara Mendoza.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning, Mara. You have registered with us. Would you like to speak in support or in opposition to this application?
I'm here just to observe.
Sorry, could you please repeat that?
I'm here to observe.
Oh, you're here to observe only. Members of the so just so you know, Mara, we are vetting the agenda. We're holding down the items if there are persons who are interested in speaking to the item, or if committee members have any questions or would like further discussion. So after I confirm with you, I will confirm with the committee members. If there are no questions for this application, we may proceed with voting on this item. So there may not be an opportunity to come back. Okay, so just so you know.
Okay.
Okay, members of the committee, we have before us 9 Linden Avenue. Any questions for the applicant?
Yes, Madam Chairman, I have a question for the applicant.
And you would like to
I'd
further
like to
discuss
hold
it?
this item.
Okay, so we will hold down this item, Lucy and Aaron and Mara, and we will come back to it for further deliberation, okay? Colin, you had something? Okay. Item number 8 is 26 Woodland Pard Road. Woodland Park Road, not Park, okay. 26 Woodland Park Road, and this is an application to construct a second floor addition with a new 2-story rear and south side addition. We have with us Leo Mastandria as the agent. Leo, are you with us?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. And I will do a roll call because I have 3 parties registered with us here. Laura and Patrick Smith, are you with us?
Yes, we are here.
Thank you. Kate and Sean Gaudet, are you with us?
Oh, hi, thanks. I'm here.
Okay, and is that Kate?
That is Kate. Good
Okay,
morning.
good morning. Okay, I'm just doing a roll call to make sure everyone's here. Dennis Rushforth and Cheryl Treadget, are you with us here?
Yes, we're here.
Okay.
Yes, we're here.
Thank you. So this would certainly need a discussion as there are concerns from the speakers, so we will hold down this item and come back to it. Thank you. Item number 9, 55 West Croft Drive. And this is an application to construct a new 2-story detached dwelling, and we have 2 variances before us. And for this, we have the agent listed as Sean Tusi. Are you with us, Sean?
Yes. Hi, Madam Chair. I'm here.
Okay, thank you. We have the agent, another agent, Samir Malik. Samir, are you with us?
Through the chair, this person has not logged in today.
Okay. Okay, all right. So, Sean, the person is there? Okay, that's fine. I'm just doing a roll call, so. We also have an interested party, the neighbor Basil Mangano.
Through the chair, this person has not logged in today.
Okay, interested party. So do we know if there was in support or in opposition to this application, Mr. Basil Mangano? We don't know. The only reason I ask is if there was concerns and if that person has not been able to connect, then we have to wait.
Actually, we'll check momentarily.
Okay. Not sure? Okay. What do you recommend? Do we wait? Okay, all right. So Mr. Basil Mangano, who had registered with us to speak today, is not online yet. We do have to give an opportunity and some time for Basil Mangano to be able to connect if he wishes to speak to this application. So we will hold down this item and come back to it at the end of the vetting of the agenda to confirm if he's there. If not, we will move on with the discussion. Thank you. Item number 10 is 49 Shandon Drive. 49 Shandon Drive is a minor variance application to construct a one-story addition to the rear of the existing dwelling, and we have before us 4 variances. We have listed here Alina Santini as the agent. Alina, are you here with us?
Through the chair, this person has not logged in today.
Okay. We also have Taleen Bashori as the owner. Taleen,
Hi there, good morning.
okay, and this is Taleen?
It's Taleen, yes.
Taleen, sorry about that. So Taleen, thank you for being with us. Of the agent? Okay, so if there are any questions, Taleen, today, would you be able to speak on behalf of the agent?
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. Members of the committee, do you have any questions for Taleen today?
No question, Madam Chair.
Okay, no questions? Gary, any questions for you?
No question.
Okay, thank you. So Taleen, the committee members have no questions. Members of the committee, if there are no questions, are we prepared for a motion?
Madam Chair, I'm prepared to recommend approval of this variance.
And are there
I
any
don't believe
conditions?
There is urban forestry.
there's urban forestry conditions.
Okay.
Yep.
So Taleen, are you aware of the conditions from urban forestry?
Yes, I am.
And you have no questions on that one?
No, I don't.
Thank you, Taleen. We have on the floor a motion to approve the application subject to condition of urban forestry. May I have a seconder, please?
Madam Chair, I will move the motion, second the motion for approval of this application, subject to the condition of urban forestry.
Thank you. All in favor of this motion? The motion's carried. Your application has been approved subject to conditions of urban forestry.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Taleen. We will now move to item number 11. Item 11 is 1 Arnott Drive, and this is an application to construct a new one-story garage and storage addition to the east side of the dwelling. And we have before us 3 variances. We have registered with us Imran Khan, the architect. He's the agent. Imran, are you with us online?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, thank you, Imran. We also have Murshidul Jilani listed as the owner. Murshidul Jilani, are you with us?
Through the chair, this person has not logged in.
Okay, thank you. So Imran, if there are any questions on this application, would you be able to represent the owner?
No, I don't have any questions.
No. So if the committee has any questions, would you be able to speak on behalf of the owner?
Yeah, I can.
Okay, thank you, Imran. Members of the committee, application for 1 Arnott Drive. Are there any questions for Imran?
Question, Madam Chair.
Okay, if there are no questions, just confirming, are there any conditions? There is an urban forestry. Okay. So Imran, are you aware of the condition of urban forestry?
Yes, I am.
Okay, and you have no questions on that one?
No.
Okay, thank you. Members of the committee, if no further questions, may I please have a motion? Please go ahead.
Madam Chair, I will move the motion for approval of item number 11. I believe the 3 variants requested there are minor. This approval is subject to the condition of urban forestry.
Thank you. May I have a seconder, please?
Madam Chair, I'll second that.
Member Macaulay seconds it. All in favor of this motion? The motion's carried. Imran, your application has been approved subject to condition of urban forestry.
Yeah, thank you very much, everyone.
Okay, thank you. We move to item number 12. Item number 12 is 11 Brooklawn Avenue. And the application is to construct a new two-story detached dwelling, and we have before us 5 variances that have been requested. This is 11 Brooklawn Avenue. And we do have a list of speakers, so I will do a roll call to confirm if they're all available to speak today. Peter Jerusek, you're the agent.
I'm here.
Thank you. Kimberly Fawcett Smith.
I'm here.
Thank you, Kimberly. Paul Steinberg.
Hello. Yes, I'm here. I'll be speaking on this application.
Thank you, Paul. Natasha Taylor.
Yes, I'm here and I will be speaking.
Thank you, Natasha. Wendy Hooker and Alan Burt.
Yes, I'm here, and Wendy Hooker is here as well. I will not be speaking, but Wendy will be.
Okay, thank you, Alan. Ethel and Gary McCauley.
Yes, it's Gary McCauley. I'm here. I would like to speak. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Gary. Stay with us. Cheryl Carr.
Yes, I'm here. And Madam Chair, we have a preferred list of order. Would you like me to give that to you now or later?
I would prefer you give it to me later when we come back to discussing it, because we are holding it down anyways. Okay?
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Cheryl. Okay, members of committee, we are holding down item 12 for 11 Brooklawn Avenue. There's quite a few speakers here. We move to item 13. Item 13 is 110 Lakeside Road. The purpose of the application is to construct a new front porch and to raise the roof of the existing attached garage. And we have 1 variances for the purposes of this application. And we have listed with us Enzo Loscisano as the agent. I'm sorry if I pronounced the name incorrectly. Enzo.
Yes, I'm here.
Okay. So Enzo, we're vetting the agenda, and we will just confirm if there were any speakers. I don't see any speakers on this application. Members of the committee, do you have any questions for Enzo? No? Okay. And just confirming, are there any conditions?
None, Madam Chair.
There are no conditions. Okay. So if there are no questions for Enzo, may I have a motion, please?
Madam Chair, I recommend approval of this application. There are no conditions.
Okay, thank you. We have a motion on the floor to approve this application, and there are no conditions. May I have a seconder, please?
Yes, Madam Chair, I'll second that approval.
Thank you, Gary. All in favor of this motion? The motion's carried. Enzo, your application has been approved, and there are no conditions.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Item number 14 was deferred. Sir, please.
Through the chair, we now have the interested party for, the interested party for item 9 has now logged in.
Okay, all right. We can probably go to that item, right? Right now, okay. So we will go back to item 9. We have been advised by staff that Basil Mangano is now online with us. Basil, are you with us? Can you hear us?
Brought the item up, but my microphone was muted, and I was yelling at my screen, but so I've called in on the audio number, so I can't see you guys. So I guess it doesn't matter anyway.
Okay, all right, no problem. As long.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. We wouldn't have proceeded. We wouldn't have proceeded without you anyway. So thank you for coming back, and we can hear you now. Basil, we have you listed as an interested party, but we weren't sure if you were in support or in opposition to this application.
Yeah, well, I'm opposed on certain aspects of this application. Yes.
Okay, so you would like to speak to this item?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, Basil. So thank you very much for confirming that. So right now we're just vetting the agenda. So we will hold down this item and come back to it. Okay? So stay with us. Thank you. So we go back to item number 15. Item 15 is 78 Earlton Road. The application is to construct a new two-story detached dwelling, and we have before us 8 variances. This is 78 Earlton Road. And we have Kevin Washington listed as the agent. Kevin, are you online with us?
Yes, I am.
Thank you, Kevin. Members of the committee, this is the one with the revised, okay. So before I proceed to the members of committee, Kevin, are you aware of the revised condition that has been provided to us by staff from transportation?
Yes, I have that.
Okay, do you want me to read it out just to confirm that you have the right condition?
Sure.
Okay, so the condition that we received from staff is that the applicant illustrate the driveway between the property line and the curb to the satisfaction of transportation services, i.e., that driveway narrows to 6 meters between the property line and curb and provides a minimum setback to the existing hydrant.
Yes, that's what I have.
Okay, do you have any questions on this one or comment?
No, I don't.
You don't, okay.
No, I don't. No.
Okay, thank you, Kevin. Members of committee, do you have any questions for Kevin? Please, Member McCauley.
Madam Chair, I have a couple of questions on this applicant.
Do you want to hold this down?
I'd like to hold this item.
Okay, so Kevin, as you heard, Member McCauley has a couple of questions for you, so we will hold down this item and come back to it, okay?
Okay.
Thank you. Item number 16, 39 Poplar Road. This is an application to construct a new two-story detached dwelling, and we have before us 5 variances. We have listed with us Elmira Zarabi. Elmira, are you online with us?
Good morning. Yes, I am.
Thank you. And you're the agent?
Yes, I'm the architect and the agent on the application.
And if there are any questions of you, would you be able to speak on behalf of the owner?
Yes.
Thank you. Members of committee, we have Elmira, the agent. Any questions for Elmira? This is 39 Poplar Road. Just want to make sure, are there any conditions or anything?
Forestry conditions are there.
Okay, so Elmira, are you aware of the conditions of urban forestry?
Yes.
And you have any questions on that one? Do you have any questions with those conditions, or are you good?
No, we are preparing the documents for urban forestry.
Okay, thank you, Elmira. Members of the committee, if there are no questions, may I have a motion, please?
Madam Chair, I believe the variances requested there, all 5 variances are minor. There are conditions of urban forestry. So with this condition, I would like to move the motion for approval of item number 16.
Thank you. May I have a seconder?
Yes, Madam Chair. I'll second that motion to approve with the forestry condition.
Thank you. Gary seconds the motion. All in favor of this motion? The motion's carried. Elmira, your application has been approved, and there are conditions of urban forestry.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next on the list, item number 17, 2470 Lawrence Avenue East. And this is an application to permit a temporary 231 square meters of sales center for a 4-year term located within the existing driveway and parking areas of the former school. And this has an associated zoning bylaw amendment application as well and a draft plan of subdivision. We have before us 1 variance to permit the use. We have with us Billy Tung as the agent. Billy, are you online with us?
Good morning, Madam Chair. Yes, I'm here. I have one small request of committee, which is a consideration of revising the planning condition of the 4-year term to a 5-year term. My client just would like to have that consideration given the current uncertainty with the market. So what we would very much like the committee to consider that minor revision to the condition, if possible.
Okay, thank you. Staff, did we have a report from community planning on this one?
Through the chair, we don't have a staff report on this.
Okay, all right. So Members of the committee, we have a request to.
Oh, I'm sorry,
There is?
through the committee. Sorry, there is a staff report that indicates that the use for a maximum of 4 years and the approval be tied to plans. And that was based on what the applicant did apply for originally.
Okay. All right, I found the report. I couldn't find it in the materials. Okay, so we have a staff report on this item, and there were a couple of conditions in there, and the application request was for 4 years, and that's what community planning recommended.
That is correct.
Okay, so members of the committee, we have a request before us. Would you like to further discuss this, or are you prepared to make a motion on this one?
Madam Chair, I'm prepared to discuss this now and make and recommend the application as submitted. If the applicant and owner needs to come back at the end of 4 years for an additional temporary sales pavilion, I think that's reasonable.
Okay, is that a comment, or was that a motion?
That's a motion to recommend approval, subject to the conditions of community planning.
Okay, may I have a seconder? So we have a motion on the floor to approve it for 4 years as requested, as per the notice. May I have a seconder, please?
Yes, Madam Chair, I would second that proposal. I think 4 years, thinking about the development process and timing, I think that's an appropriate time period that staff have suggested. If there's a need later, then the applicant can come back at that time. So I would approve Member McCauley's motion.
Okay, and then there are 2 conditions
Yes.
of community planning? Okay.
Yes.
All right, so we have a motion to approve the application as presented for 4 years with conditions from community planning. And Billy, just want to confirm, you are aware of those conditions, correct?
Yes, I am.
Okay, so the motion has been seconded. All in favor of this motion? Motion's carried. Billy, your application has been approved for a period of 4 years with conditions of urban forestry.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the committee.
Okay, thank you.
Is there a condition of urban forestry there? I don't think so. There are.
Not on 17 or 18.
Yeah, there is no urban forestry conditions
No.
there.
Community planning.
Community, oh, you said urban forest. Okay.
Did I say urban forestry?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry about that. Okay, so just want to revise my statement that those were conditions of community planning and not urban forestry. Okay, sorry. I'm just so used to the urban forestry conditions. Okay, item number 18. Item 18 is 3 Karen Ann Crescent. And this is an application to construct a single-story sunroom addition at the rear of the existing dwelling. And we have before us 3 variances on this application. I'll do a roll call to confirm. Louis Battiston, agent, are you online with us?
I'm online, yes.
Sorry?
Hello?
Hi?
Hello?
Hi, is this Louis?
Yeah, this is Louis.
Okay, sorry, I mispronounced your name the first time. So Louis, stay with us.
Okay.
Stay with us, we'll do a roll call. Next on the list, we have Ernest Krebs. Ernest, are you online with us?
Yes.
Okay, thank you, Ernest. And you have concerns with this application, so we will hold down this item and come back to it for further discussion, okay?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ernest. So item 18 has been held. Item 19, 66 Lehan Drive. Okay, so this is an application to construct a new 2-story detached dwelling, and we have before us 8 variances. So I will do a roll call. We have Sean Sinaraja. Sean, are you with us?
Yes, I am here.
And you're,
Good morning.
good morning, and you're the agent on this application.
Yes, I'm the agent, and my designer is with me as well, Kuman, and he will speak on behalf of us.
Okay, all right. We also have with us Subhashini Mangaleswaran. Are you with us here?
Yes, I'm here as well. Good morning.
Good morning, Subhashini. Just stay with us. I'm just doing a roll call for the rest of the participants. Human Rehai is the designer for the project, and you're there as well, correct?
Hi, I'm right here.
Okay, thank you, Human. We have Eleanor Ruthwin. Eleanor, are you with us?
Yes, I am.
Thank you. And you would like to speak to this application. You have some concerns.
Yes.
Okay. We have next one listed as Ernest James Fowles.
Through the chair, this person has not logged in today.
Okay. Kimberly Brown.
Through the chair, this person has not logged in today.
Thank you. Kelly Cook. Kelly Cook, are you with us?
I am.
Okay, thank you. There may be a delay or something, so just bear with us, please. Next one, we have Frank and Mary Cook.
I know that Kelly Cook is to speak for them.
Okay, so I have another, okay. So it says Frank and Mary have registered, but there's a note for us that says Kelly Cook is speaking on behalf of Frank and Mary Cook. Is that fair, Kelly?
Yes, it is, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Andrew Jasmine Ramdas. Andrew Jasmine.
Through the chair, this person had logged in previously, but is no longer there.
Okay, that's okay. We'll wait. James and Joanne Antonopoulos, are you with us?
Yes, we are here.
Thank you, James. Jim, are you with us? Jim Antonopoulos? It's the same person? Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so you've been registered twice. Thank you. Doug Fulton, are you with us?
Hello?
Hi.
Hi, this is Dee Fulton.
Okay, D. Fulton, just stay with us. So I've just done a roll call, and it certainly needs a discussion. So we will hold down this item and come back to it. Okay. Last on the list, item number 20, 19 Holly Hedge Drive. This is an application to construct a new two-story detached dwelling, and there are 4 variances that have been requested. We have Amritpal Singh Bansal as the agent. Amritpal, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Thank you, Amritpal. I do not have any other registered deputant. Members of the committee, any questions for Amritpal? And I just want to make sure that there were no conditions.
Madam Chair, there are urban forestry conditions.
Okay. Amritpal, are you aware of conditions of urban forestry?
Yes.
And you have no questions on those conditions?
No.
Thank you. Members of the committee, any questions? And if there is no question, may I have a motion on this application?
Madam Chair, I am willing to support this application. The variances requested, 4 variances requested are minor, and there are conditions for urban forestry. So with this condition, I move the motion for approval of item number 20.
Perfect. Have a seconder, please.
Yes, Madam Chair, I second that approval to approve this for the Holly Hedge Drive property, yes.
And there are conditions.
Yeah, and subject to urban forestry, as said.
Thank you. All in favor of this motion? The motion's carried. Your application has been approved, subject to conditions of urban forestry.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you. That brings us to the end of the agenda for the vetting. I will just go through the list again to confirm the items that have been held. So item number 2 has been held. item number 3, item number 5, item number 6, item number 7, item 8, item 9, item 12, item 15, item 18, item 19, and that's it. Okay. Did I catch them all correctly? Okay. All right, thank you very much. So we will now resume our, sorry?
Through the chair, I have a caller on the line, but the number doesn't match up with anyone we have registered. Do you mind if I just check with them for a moment to see who they are?
Please, go ahead.
Thank you. Hello, good morning. Hi, oh, can you speak up a bit, please?
Oh, hi there. Are you talking to me?
I am talking to you. Can we just get your name and the address that you're calling about, please?
Sure. So my name is Shona Lynch, and I'm calling about the proposal at 144 Harding. Sorry, I logged on online, but then the computer was a bit wonky, so I had to call in instead.
Okay, great. We do have you here.
Wonderful. Thanks
Thank
so
you.
much.
Sorry, what
Item
was
number
the name?
6.
What was the name again? Oh, Shauna. Oh, okay, so it's Shauna, not Sinead. I was pronouncing it inaccurately. Okay, so Shauna Lynch registered with us. She has now joined us. This item is number 6, and this is on hold, so we will come back to it when the item comes up for discussion. Okay, so we will start with the first item that was held. This is item number 2, and this is, the address is 60 Wilkie Avenue. It's a consent application. The applications for consent and associated minor variances were previously considered by the Committee of Adjustment at its hearing on June 16th. And the Committee of Adjustment had deferred the application at that meeting. And since then, the applicant has revised the application and is back with us. There are 2 lots being created, and there are 6 variances for Lot 1 or Part 1, and 7 variances for, actually more than that, 7 and then 1 more for Part 2. So let's go to Peter Jarosik. Peter, are you with us?
I am.
Okay, so I would ask the committee if they would like to have a presentation. If not, if there's any questions, otherwise we'll start with with hearing the opposition members. Members of committee, would you like to have a presentation on this application, or do you have any questions for Peter? Peter, is there anything else you would like to say?
Further to that last meeting, the reason why we deferred was we failed to add the corner rounding, which reduced the lot area. And so that's why we had to defer it, because we didn't add the corner rounding the first time around. So it changed 2 of the variances to reduce it. So my presentation stands as it was from last time. And I think we have addressed some of the neighbors' comments at that time. And if someone's willing to hear it, then I'm here to answer any questions.
Thanks, Peter. Members of committee. Member Macaulay, please go ahead.
Madam Chair, I'd like to hear from the additional person who wishes to speak before we ask any questions.
Oh, so okay. So the interested party, okay. All right, just confirming, Member Said? Gary, any questions? No, okay.
Just a quick question from Peter. I remember last time there was a consideration that you will be having a consultation with the interested parties. So have you done that?
The only issue we had was with the neighbor on the ones, she was worried about the distance from our property. And we mentioned to her that we are further away than the in-between. So I know the variances are written as 0.45, but actually on that side of the property, we have a larger towards her property line. We have the 0.6. So I know that was the issues there. In terms of other consultation with clients, I know my neighbor did speak to people, and he did have letters of support provided through his consultation with the neighbors in the vicinity of the property, and that is posted on the website. You should have a copy of the letters of support.
Yes, for record, we do have letters of support, I believe. Do we? Okay. No further questions? Okay, so Peter, thank you. Stay with us. There are no further questions for you at this time. We will now proceed to speak with Teresa Cameron. Teresa, are you still with us?
Yes, I am.
Thank you. So Teresa, please go ahead and and speak to the concerns that you have on this application.
My main concern was how close you are to my property line. And I don't understand the metric system, so you have to give it to me in feet.
Okay, and so what's your address, Teresa?
I'm 111 Heel Avenue. I'm on the north side of the property line.
Okay, can we pull up the location or the site plan? So she's the neighbor on the north side, so okay. So 11 Healy Avenue. 111, okay, sorry.
111.
Correct, thank you. So it's 111 Heel Avenue, and you're asking what the setback is. So I will request Peter. Peter, could you confirm in feet what is the setback between the proposed setback to 111 Heel Avenue property line?
It is 2 feet. 0.6 meters is 2 feet.
Okay, thanks, Peter. And
You're
Peter, are
welcome.
you going to be taking down the maple tree on the south side?
Let me refresh my memory. No, that's on the city property. It is not being removed. The large maple tree is on the city property, and it is not going to be removed.
Wow. I just can't visualize 2 houses on that lot. Well, 2 feet is better than 1.5 feet.
Yeah, we maintain the 1.5 feet in between the houses for each
Yes.
lot to keep it between the new construction, but towards the neighbors, we're at we maintain 2 feet, which is 0.6 meters.
Okie dokie. Thank you.
Teresa, do you have any further questions?
No, that's it.
Okay. Does that satisfy your concern?
Well, I'd like it to be further away.
Okay, all right. Thank you. Members of the committee, do you have any questions for Teresa? Okay. Thank you, Teresa, for your time and helping us understand your concerns. Go ahead. Okay. Peter, you have addressed Teresa's question. I have nothing further to add. Members of committee, do you have any further comment for Peter? Okay. If there are no further questions, I'm just going to confirm in terms of the conditions. Peter, you are aware of the standard conditions of consent, and there were 10 conditions related to corner rounding from ECS, and there were conditions of urban forestry, condition 1 and number 3. Are you aware of those conditions?
Yes, I am, yes.
Okay, and you have no questions on those?
No, that's why we deferred last time, was because of those engineering comments for us to correct them.
Okay, all right. So members of the committee, if there are no questions or comments for Peter, may I please have a motion?
Madam Chair, I would like to move the motion for approval of item number 2, subject to the ECS conditions and urban forestry conditions.
And standard conditions of consent.
Commission, yes.
Okay, so I'm just going to repeat. We have a motion on the floor to approve the application, subject to conditions of standard consent conditions, ECS conditions, urban forestry conditions. May I have a seconder, please?
Yes, Madam Chair, I would second the approval of those two applications, subject to the named conditions.
Thank you. All in favor of this motion? Motion's carried. Peter, your application has been approved, subject to
Thank you
conditions.
very much.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. We now move to item number 3. Item number 3 is 7 Broadmead Avenue. And this is an application, a consent application that had lapsed, and the conditions were not met within a year of the approval. And the owner is now requesting the consent again, as per the Planning Act. And there was also an error made on the previous public notice. Yeah, and then the correct notice was also issued for this hearing. So we have with us Peter. Peter, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Okay. Would you like to say something to this application or make a presentation, or how would
Yeah,
you?
briefly. I'll keep it short.
Okay, please.
In terms of this application, we fulfilled all the conditions except for TRCA. Theirs were a little bit more daunting in scale in terms of we have to prepare the land and transfer it over to them. So in light of preparing the land and getting their inspections out there, our time lapsed due to what some of the works had to be done, and works still have to be done to complete that. So dealing with the TRCA, that was the issue that we lapsed. In terms of the severance itself, we comply with the frontage, lot area, and everything else that we comply with the lot configuration based on the bylaw for a lot in that area. I do have some comments to what the neighbors' reports are, but I know they're going to speak, so I'll probably reserve the right. I'll speak to that after they've had a chance to speak.
Okay, thank you. Members of committee, any questions for Peter? None? Okay.
Well, just one, Madam Chair. Just to the agent, just thinking about this property, it slopes away from the street, like it slopes down. Is that correct?
Yes, it does.
Yes. All right, thank you. That's all, Madam Chair.
Okay. Member Said, please, go ahead.
Peter, as you mentioned that the approval lapsed, mainly you were getting the approvals from TRCA. So are all those things which were pending or outstanding regarding the grading issues and all that has been taken care of?
We're still working toward some of the grading. Once it lapsed, we held a pause on that, because knowing we have to go back to the committee. They do require us to remove some retaining walls and plant some trees. We were hitting into the winter season at that point, so we had to wait. That's why it lapsed, where some of the works couldn't be completed. So in terms of my client, I haven't spoken to him in terms of if he has commenced work. It's my understanding that he hasn't yet. He's waiting for this to clear up, and then we can commence finalizing everything with the committee, with TRCA. Apparently, they have to come out and review the property with us, and he was just wanting to make sure that this gets corrected again, and then we can go back to TRCA to finalize everything.
Member Macaulay?
In regard to the TRCA, is that the only condition that you didn't fulfill?
Correct. We had the registered land, we got the forestry, we had the taxes paid. All the standard conditions were all met. We just could not meet the TRCA because of the logistics of them coming out, doing inspections, and because and transferring the land to them for Part 3.
Okay, I understand that that can be time-consuming in getting them out. In the meantime, is the site secured, especially the section that is to go to TRCA, or are there grading issues and tree issues and problems with the site?
The site is fairly native, how it's always been at the back. we have to build a fence on our property once it's transferred to them. In essence, they want us to just remove any man-made features within their part, so it becomes pristine and added to the rest of the ravine lane.
And if I remember correctly, there was some issues about wanting to plant trees in that area as well. Is that correct?
It wasn't an issue. It's a tree planting plan request that we have to meet. Yes.
And is that from TRCA or is that from Urban Forestry or Ravines?
I think it's all encompassing. I think everybody had that request. It was a shared agreement to get the tree planting in.
Okay, and do you have approval for that tree planting?
There is a tree planting plan, correct? Yes, there is.
There is one.
I think it was, yeah, I think it's been submitted and approved by TRCA already.
Okay.
We do have the approvals from TRCA on our plan. We just could not execute the transfer and the works that had to be done prior to, because one of the conditions was we do have to give them the land. And some of the works, the plan has been approved for us to do the work, but we couldn't get the work quick enough done to lapse the consent time of 1 year.
Okay, you are aware that I particularly don't like extending conditions of consent approval. I want to make sure that you can do this within the 1 year. It sounds to me like you are working on that and should be able to achieve that within the 1 year. Is that correct?
Yes, it is.
Thank you.
No further questions for Peter?
No further questions.
Thank you. So I will now move to our list of speakers. First one on the list, Robert McGowan.
Hi, yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Please go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Could you please queue up the slide deck that I forwarded? And good morning, committee and staff. My name is Robert McGowan. I live at 9 Broadmead Avenue with my wife, Beverly. We, along with several neighbors, oppose this application to create two unusually small lots in the Cliff Crest neighborhood. We have the 5 speakers for today's session, speaking on different topics. They are in order: myself, Robert McGowan, Ryan Coughlin, Beverly Wallace, Robert Brown, and then ending up with Trevor Wilson. About our neighborhood, Cliff Crest south of Kingston Road is literally defined by the bluffs overlooking Lake Ontario and also by the ravines that feed into the bluffs. The zoning for this neighborhood is for 2-story single detached houses, and along with the official plan, allows for responsible development and modernization. We don't think that this application for consent qualifies as responsible. I will first focus on the lot sizes in the context as outlined by the official plan. Looking at slide 1, you can see that the proposed lot 7A, 7B Broadmead highlighted in red would be significantly smaller than the other lots within the immediate context. 7A in particular would be 41% smaller than 3 Broadmead Avenue, the smallest lot on the south side of the block. If we go to slide 2, this presents the immediate context. That would be the second page. Thank you. The subject property is on the south side of Broadmead Avenue. I have superimposed the proposed lots on the property. The character of the lots on the south side of Broadmead is significantly different to those on the north side. And this needs to be considered when discussing the immediate context. The lots on the north side of the street are interior lots. They back onto other properties in their block. The lots on the south side of the street are prized ravine lots, backing onto the Broadmead Valley Ravine, an uncurated urban forest. The configuration of the proposed lots are also not in keeping with the lots to the east and west. The boundaries for 7A and 7B would clearly not be comparable to 5 Broadmead to the west and 9 to the east, and are out of keeping with the other lots in the block. Referring to the official plan, section 4.1 neighborhoods, policy 4.1.5, development in established neighborhoods will respect and reinforce the existing physical character of each geographical neighborhood, including in particular part B, prevailing size and configuration of lots. It further states that proposed development within a neighborhood will be materially consistent with the prevailing physical character of properties in both the broader and immediate context. In instances where there's difference between the two contexts, the immediate context will be considered to be of greater relevance. The plan also defines prevailing as most frequently occurring. It does not recognize single or infrequently occurring instances as setting allowable precedents. So on the basis of lot pattern alone in the immediate context, the proposed lot fails to meet the intent of the official plan. The broader context is not much better. If you go to slide 3, there are 50 ravine bluff lots in the broader context. So these are comparable lots. The large yellow arrow points to the blue wedge that is 7 Broadmead Avenue. Going to slide 4, you can see that 7 Broadmead Avenue is already sitting well below the median lot size for comparable lots in the broader context. The proposed lots would be the smallest ravine lots in the entire neighborhood, with 7A being 23% smaller than the current smallest ravine lot. That's 33 Brooklawn Avenue at 556 square meters. If you can please turn to slide 5. If we ignore the concept of these being ravine lots and we propose to compare to interior lots within the broader context, 7A would still be considered a small lot within the broader context. It would be in the bottom 10% of all lot sizes for the area. Now, this analysis is based on a random sample of 100 interior lots within the broader context. If we could just slide back up to slide 1. For conclusion. In summary, in all contexts, 7A would not be in compliance with the intent of the official plan. 7B would not be in compliance with the official plan in the immediate context, but recall the plan states where there are instances of significant difference between these two contexts, the immediate context will be considered of greater relevance. Therefore, I'd like to propose that 7 Broadmead should not be severed because the development of the smaller lots will not meet the intent of the official plan. The application fails this test and should be refused. And I thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, Robert. 4.5 minutes, that's great. Any questions for Robert at this time?
Yes, Madam Chair.
Please.
Robert, I appreciate the work that you've done here and the effort that has gone into this. You are aware that the variance for lot size and then lot frontage and lot area was approved 2 years ago. And therefore, from the committee's point of view, we really can't address that as a bylaw amendment because the variance has been granted. However, what we can address is whether it's still fitting within the overall context of the community as a consent application. My question to you is, did you object to this application 2 years ago when the variances were for smaller lot frontage and area, when they were approved?
Yes, yes, I did. Now, there needs to be I request that there's a little understanding is we were presented with this this consent roughly about 2 weeks before the committee, and being untutored in the way of the committee and consent, we had to get up to speed very quickly. One of the things that was discussed in terms of hard numbers was the frontage. And we're not arguing the frontage. Frontage is 45. This area is zoned for 35 feet frontage. We're not arguing.
Yeah, and sorry if I may, Robert, sorry, I'm just going to interject just to make the facts clear here. Looking at the previous decisions, there was no variance for lot area or lot frontage. Those were for the performance standards for the building only. Thank you. Sorry, Robert, I interjected. Please carry on. Just wanted to make that clear.
Yes. So again, so thank you. So those are relevant to the consent application. They're not relevant with the variance because the variance consent would speak to reconfiguration of the lots. The variances speak to built forms upon the lots. So when we're talking about frontage and lot area, we're speaking directly to the consent. The area was talked about in qualitative terms. We didn't have the quantitative analysis that was put here. So this is information that was not considered in this detail at the first consent application. And I would also like to mention that the consent application is no longer valid. It's this is not, as far as I understand, a request for renewal or extension. This is a standalone consent application.
That is correct. So this is a new application. So the way the process works is that if the conditions have lapsed, the consent is not in place. So the applicant has to reapply. So this is a new application to create the lots. The variances for the buildings that were initially approved are still in place. So what we have before us today is a consent application to create the two lots, and there are no associated variances as typically would relate to lot frontage or lot area. And if you go back in history, the decisions from the previous Committee of Adjustment that allowed the consent and the associated minor variances, there were no variances for the lot area or the lot frontage. They were to the performance standards for the built form. Okay, so that's sort of the explanation there. So if I can just let you know that, so the bylaw allows for the lot area and the lot frontage that is being proposed today through this application, as of right. Okay, so just wanted to clarify that. If there are no further questions for Robert, can we move on to the next speaker, please? Okay, thank you, Robert, for your time. Really appreciate your presentation. Okay, so the next person is, I know you gave an order, so who was the next person in the order? Ryan? Okay, so Ryan?
Hello.
Hi.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Madam Chairperson and members of the committee. I would like to point out, as my first point that I'm going to discuss, the minor variances that you keep referring to in the build structure from previously. On the current site plan on this application that has been submitted, the buildings are bigger than what they were the last time. I think that's a crucial point to consider, that this group got approval for variances the last time and then now are trying to creep the building even bigger. So where those variances were approved, I see them as moot at this point, because this group has shown themselves not willing to hold to the binding agreement that they had the last time with the city and the neighbors to keep the buildings to a certain size. They are clearly going to build bigger than what they did before, or at least what they were planning to.
Okay.
And I just, in case any of you are wondering, I'm actually sitting on the second floor of 5 Broadmead, looking out at the backyard that has been let go completely to nature, and they have done nothing back there other than a poor attempt at removing a retaining wall that's on adjacent to 9 Broadmead and fix the grading there. But other than that, and some dead trees that I see that apparently died since these owners took over, nothing has been done back there.
Okay.
To continue on, if you can pull up if you have my submission, my objection.
Okay, so while we pull up your submission, Ryan, I just wanted to kind of clarify. So you've raised 2 points. One is your observation that the proposal that's before us today, although it's for consent only, it's not for any buildings on the lot, but in your observation, the houses that are being proposed on the plan seem to be larger or appear to be larger than what was approved the last time, correct? What I can tell you is that if they were to, and again, that is not subject of our review through this application. We're not looking at the build form because that's not part of the application. If they were to proceed to build more than what they were permitted initially, they will have to come back to the committee or modify their plans to build what was approved by the committee previously. Okay, so I can confirm that. That's how the process works. So after this, let's say, should the committee approve this consent application today and they proceed with submitting their building permit plans to the building department will do the zoning review in light of the variances that were approved, And if there is any discrepancy, they would either have to rectify, revise the proposal, or come back to the committee if they were to deviate from those approvals. So I can confirm that for you. The other piece, the construction and the maintenance of the property, that's beyond our jurisdiction here. So the committee cannot speak to the construction timing or what's actually going on the property. So I just wanted to state it for your information. Member Macaulay has a question.
I have a comment. I've looked at this application very carefully. I was not on the committee when this application was heard previously, and I do note your comment that the buildings have changed. The previous application, I gave variance approvals to a number of items, but at no point, if you look at the decision, did it say that the applicant was to build in accordance with the plans provided to that committee meetings. So the plans were provided for information, and the applicant can or cannot, whichever, it's his choice as to whether he wants to build in accordance with the plans that he showed us. If we were very concerned, and as we're learning, maybe we should be more concerned about some of the things because the plans change after we think that we're giving approval to them, we need to tie the application to the plans submitted and in front of us. So I just want to make it clear, he had no requirement to build in accordance with the plans that he showed on the 2018 application.
However, he would still have to comply with the zoning.
That's correct.
Yeah. So regardless of the configuration or a change of design, they would still need to comply with the zoning or the variances that were approved. Okay, thank you. So, sorry, Ryan, we sort of ate into your time. Please go ahead, and we're listening now.
Okay. If you go to page 2 of what I submitted, there is a picture, just as an aid to give you an idea of the drainage that would, basically I'd be worried about the drainage were they to build very close, as they would need to if they were to sever these lots into two. In order to build houses, they would have to come even closer than the structure you can see in that picture on the right. That's a shed currently. They would be even closer to the fence in the new plans that they have. And the land slopes towards my house as well as back away from the curb. So what a very large concern I would have is, given the poor work they've done on the grading adjacent to 9 Broadmead, I have no confidence in this builder that they would even be concerned with drainage onto my property, that they would do the right thing. I mean, they let this conveyance lapse because they say it was difficult to do things, but there seems to be barely any attempt to do anything. No trees have been cut down. There's nothing in the backyard, and the grading that they did was rather poor. So what I'm looking at is directly evidence that I can see that these folks won't have my interests in mind. And this is my next point then. They have not approached me with this at all. I happened upon a person who named himself as the owner one day when I was out doing yard work. But other than that, these folks have not spoken to me about this conveyance. They haven't sent us anything official. The only thing official we've gotten is the official hearing notice from the city. So as of right now, these are kind of ghosts that I haven't spoken to, and they haven't even attempted to address any concerns that I may have, which then goes to another point. If you go to the next page, page 3, I've shown, I got a hold from the last set of documents as a result of the last application, the trees they wanted to take down, and one of the trees they indicate they want to cut down is actually on my property, which is worrying in high regard. Anyway, but the next thing is, and I know Bev is going to talk about this, but all the trees they're going to plant in the conveyed land very significantly affect the view we have of the waterfront. If you go to page 4, I've given a visual indication of where all those trees would go, and based on the previous application, they would have to put 20 to 25 trees in that small area, which would increase the density of it and make it, instead of a wooded area, a rather significant thicket of woods that we wouldn't be able to see through to see the waterfront. And I know it sounds kind of wishy-washy, you know, saying, hey, the view's going to be ruined, but that was one of the major things that attracted us to this area when my wife and I bought, because we just bought recently, just moved in a few months ago. And we walked into the kitchen, and from the kitchen, we can see the waterfront. And if this conveyed land is lost and has to be planted with all of these trees, and that is a significant impairment to our enjoyment of this house and this neighborhood. So, yeah, those are the main points I had. I know that other people would like to speak, so I think
Okay.
we can move on. Do you guys have any other questions for me, or?
Any questions for Ryan? Okay. Ryan, could you let me know who's the third speaker?
Third is
Beverly. Okay, sorry. I didn't.
Beverly. Yes,
Okay.
Beverly, sorry.
Okay, thank you. I didn't catch the order. Okay, Beverly. Perfect. Okay, Beverly, do we have you?
Yes.
Perfect. Beverly, please go ahead.
Okay, so I actually have 3 different images I wanted to share that I sent in.
All right.
Okay, so I'm going to be speaking about the shape of the lots and why that's important, particularly as it applies to part 3. So if you look at my first picture, you can clearly see that the subject property and our property are the two that are on the curve of this road. And so that's why they do have wider frontages. We have 60 feet ourselves. So basically, they're more like pie-shaped lots compared to the other ones on the street that are more like rectangles. So what that means is, because the part 3 is going to be 70 feet at the north end and 60 feet at the south end, and it will be 200 feet on the west and 175 on the east. What that means is, even though it sounds like they're conveying half the lot, because by area they are, by depth, they're actually conveying 2/3 of the lot. So what that means is, instead of having 3 backyards in a row, you're now going to have 2 backyards with basically what's a forest between them. If you can see, that blue line on our property shows where our backyard starts. It's the bottom of our steps there. It's actually even with where their 7B backyard will be ending. And same thing on the other side. I mean, we can't see Ryan's deck over there, but basically same thing. His backyard will start where theirs will end. So, you know, normally the abutting lands would have a similar use. So instead of the 3 backyards, there's going to be these 2 backyards with this forest in between them. I don't think it maintains the planning goal of the compatibility for the adjacent uses of the land. That's one of my points. And then if you look at the planting plan, so my second image, so Ryan showed you where there's going to be 23 new trees. There are also 11 mature trees being retained. They're also on that diagram. So overall, you're going to have 34 trees in part 3. The trees that they're planting are quite large for the most part. The average height is 27.6 meters at maturity. I mean, I know they won't be like that when they plant them. And they all have a spread anywhere from 6 meters to 15 meters. So, you know, Ryan called it a thicket. I'm calling it a forest. It's incredibly dense. It's not really appropriate for a residential area, in my opinion. And, you know, he mentioned he's going to lose his view. Also, the lady, Debbie, at number 3, she's very concerned as well. And then if you look where they're planting the trees as well, a lot of them, 10 of them, are basically on the property lines on both the west and east side. So it's kind of like a row of trees right up near the fence lines. And, you know, that's going to be creating a canopy over both 9 and 5, partly, you know, on one side of each. And that is a big concern because we already don't have a ton of sunlight here because of the ravine behind us. Speaking of the ravine behind us, if you look at my last two photos, they show, so the first one shows the access point, I guess it would be called, from the road into the Broadmead Valley. My position is that part B will basically be landlocked because, you know, you're not going to get equipment and people down in there. And the other photo shows the back of the 7 Broadmead property. So that's where, even if you did get into the ravine, you'd have to be coming up that way. And I just don't see how the TRC or the city staff can do any maintenance on that property. This access problem is a big concern of all the neighbors to the east of us, us as well.
30 seconds left.
None of us want people accessing Part 3 through our properties. So in closing, I would just like to remind the committee that in every single case of severance in this neighborhood, the depth of the lot is being maintained so that the rear yards remain consistent with the neighbors. And that is the way things should stay. Compatibility with both lot depth and adjacent uses of land must be maintained when considering this or any consent application. Thank you.
Thank you, Beverly. Perfect, 5 minutes. Okay, members of the committee, any questions for Beverly? Please.
Yes, Madam Chairman. Beverly, how long have you lived in that house?
We've been here 6 years.
Okay. Do you own all the property as shown totally adjacent to the subject property? Do you,
Yes.
in other words, you've got the full length. You have not conveyed any of your land to TRCA?
No, we have not. That's a fully usable backyard, the whole thing.
Okay. I assume, I know this area, I know the issues that you have in terms of trespassing. I also know the desire of TRCA to maintain the property in its natural form and in public ownership to maintain the safety of this area. So it is kind of a dual role here that TRCA have, both a maintenance role of the canopy, the trees, and the slope, and a safety role so that people are not going down the bluffs or falling down the bluffs in this area. Or also, sometimes you've got the property that is falling away. So I understand your concerns. It is an issue, but I think in this case, we've got to talk to TRCA as maintaining their function of public safety. And therefore, in my opinion, the conveyance of these lands to TRCA is appropriate. However, the tree planting plan, I don't know whether that tree planting plan has been addressed or has been approved. You might ask the applicant whether it's been approved and whether you can make any changes to it. Looks to me like he's got them all set at particular distances. That may be because of the approval agency, or it may be that he just decided to do it that way. And I think that's something that you and the agent can discuss. So with those two comments, I have no further comments for you.
Thank you, Member Macaulay. Any further questions for Beverly? Okay. Beverly, you want to say something else?
Well, I just wanted to point out that Mr. Jurzik did say that this tree planting plan had been approved by the TRCA. At least I believe that's what he said. He also said that they had not done any works back there for the TRCA after the lapse of the application, or the consent, sorry. However, they did do their grading works a week after their consent had lapsed. And it is in the TRCA report, if you read that.
Yes, You're right. So we do, in the memo that came from TRCA, they do acknowledge that certain grading works were completed without a permit and that the owner is required to work with the enforcement staff to resolve that violation. So we certainly have these comments and, the memo from TRCA. And it's also, Mr. Jurusik also has a copy of that. So they will do what they need to do, or they should do what they need to do with the TRC in obtaining the permits and carrying on the works. In terms of the planting plan, typically, the way I'm seeing the memo, it says the owner shall submit and implement a planting plan. So my understanding is that a planting plan has yet to be submitted and approved by TRCA to the satisfaction of City of Toronto and the TRCA. Okay, so in terms of the quantity and the species of trees, that's beyond the committee's mandate, as you may know. Those are highly technical issues and matters, and those are typically handled by and TRCA, and the city Ravine will probably provide their input and feedback into what needs to go there. Okay, so if there's nothing else for Beverly, we'll move to our fourth speaker, and Robert. Robert Brown is our fourth speaker. Robert, are you with us?
I am here.
Good morning, Robert. Please go ahead.
Oh, good morning, panel and staff. My name is Robert Brown. I reside at 88 Spadina Road, Suite 212 in downtown Toronto. I have been retained by the neighbors, many of whom have spoken this morning, to provide expert opinion evidence on this application. I have been a witness, a party, and a participant before the Ontario Municipal Board. I have provided expert planning opinion evidence before the Toronto Local Appeal Body over the last 2+ years. And I was a member of the Committee of Adjustment for almost 9 years, in which I presided over approximately 5,000 applications. Over the last 30 years, I have kept myself up to date on various levels of planning legislation, including the city's official plan and the zoning bylaws, including the harmonized zoning bylaw 569/2013. Prior to accepting this assignment, I visited the subject site, reviewed the background material available on the city's Application Information Center, and met with the neighbors. As you're already clearly identified, this application calls for consent to sever a ravine lot located in the Cliffcrest community into 3 parcels, including conveying one parcel to the TRCA. I want to emphasize that I concur completely with the factual evidence provided by Rob McGowan, the neighbor at number 9. His review of both the immediate as well as the broader context clearly demonstrates that this proposal fails to meet the policies of Toronto's official plan. I also see material merit in the concerns raised by Mr. Coggan, the neighbor at number 5. Now, this area of Cliffcrest community, and I believe one of the committee members indicated that they're quite familiar with this area, is this area south of Kingston Road has a unique geological structure. Soil is predominantly of a sand and mud consistency derived from glacial till. It is adjacent to Scarborough Bluffs, many of its ravines, and Lake Ontario, where there is constant TRCA record gross soil erosion plus uncharted streams and high water tables. What I would like to specifically address in terms of my opinion evidence is whether this application meets the 4 tests. Now, as a member of the Committee of Adjustment and as an observer of many hearings, members tend to get caught up on the zoning variances. That is, are they, is it X% or X square meters or whatever larger? But the 4 tests are, there's 2 very important aspects of the 4 tests that need to be addressed relative to this application. That is, does it meet the intent of the official plan, the intent and purpose of the official plan? In other words, I believe that it fails to meet the intent of the official plan. Is that feedback coming from me or somebody else?
I'm not sure, Robert Brown.
Okay. Now, Rob McGowan mentioned the specific sections of the official plan. That is in Chapter 4, the neighborhoods policies. But there are two additional, or at least one additional chapter of the official plan that I think is important for you to consider. That is Chapter 2, Shaping the City. The Healthy Neighborhoods Policy, that's policy 2.3.1, subsection 1, talks about respecting and reinforcing the existing physical character of the neighborhood. And I think that Mr. McGowan's charts clearly indicate that this application does not meet the intent and purpose of the official plan, Chapter 2, nor of Chapter 4. Now, Mr. Coughlin, the neighbor at number 5, could you bring up his, I think it was the site plan? I just wanted to make one comment there.
Sure, I just want to be, you to be cognizant of the time. It's, you have almost like 40 seconds left.
Okay, once he brings it up, I'll be very quick.
Okay. Member McCauley? Anne?
Okay, that diagram there, the diagram with the purple circles on it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, in the 2018 decision, there were some conditions that about removal of trees. A number of those trees that may be damaged or may not be damaged or may be removed completely, they are considered boundary trees under provincial legislation, and there's a case law dealing with that. And those cannot be removed or damaged without the consent of the abutting neighbors. Therefore, Mr. Gowan and Mr. Coughlin would have to consent to the trimming and removal of those trees.
Okay, Robert, you're exceeded your 5 minutes.
Okay, may I just do the last paragraph to sum up? I request that you refuse this application as it fails to meet the intent of the official plan, particularly, and it also fails to meet the intent of meeting the proper development of the subject site. Thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you very much, Robert, for your time. Thank you for your presentation. Members of the committee, any questions for Robert?
Yes, Madam Chair.
Please.
Robert, it's a consent application, not a minor variance application. So one of the things the committee should be considering, and just wanted to see if you agree, are the criteria under the Planning Act relating to subdivisions. You know, if you're familiar with 51 sub 24, sets out subdivision criteria. Wouldn't you agree that those are the parameters that we ought to be looking at in making a decision about a consent to divide these properties, this property?
They are higher level policies of the provincial government. The relevant policies for this application is we have to make a basic assumption that all of the senior level policies have been fit in with this application, but it's the official plan, and that is the chapters that deal with the intent and purpose of the official plan relative to this particular application to sever a lot. And I think if you look carefully at the evidence provided by Mr. McGowan, you can quite clearly see that this does fail at least two different sections of the official plan. And therefore that would, you don't have to pass all four tests, you just have to fail one. And I believe as an expert witness that it clearly fails the intent and purpose of the official plan.
Okay, I got your answer on that. I don't agree that those are the appropriate tests to be looking at in terms of the four tests that you mentioned. But in any event, a committee can consider that, and we'll when we take this into our own council, we'll consider that subdivision criteria. Nothing further. Thanks.
Thank you, Gary. Any further questions for Robert?
Robert, yes, it's Anne McCauley. I think you need to be very careful, and I'm hoping that you continue to provide advice to the residents in this area to make a difference between a variance application with the four tests that has already been approved and a consent application which provides totally for the separation and division of the land into additional lots. The issues to be addressed in a consent application deal with servicing and the appropriateness of the property, its size and configuration. They don't deal with the tests that you are referring to. Thank you.
If I may, Ms. McCauley, I respectfully disagree. Any application that comes before a committee of adjustment must deal with the 4 tests under the Planning Act. And as you're aware, they must meet the intent and purpose of the official plan, the intent and purpose of the zoning bylaw. It must represent appropriate development of the site of the subject property. And finally, it must be considered minor. Here, my expert opinion is that it fails to meet the intent and purpose of the official plan.
Okay, Mr. Brown, I think you've got the wrong test, but I don't want to argue this with you on this meeting. I do suggest that you carefully consider the advice you're giving to the residents and that the residents consider what are the issues at hand. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Member McCauley. Robert, I think we've given quite a bit of time in discussing your concerns and the deliberation over those matters. Let us move on, in fairness of time, to our next speaker, Trevor Wilson. Trevor, are you online with us?
I am. Can you hear me?
Yes, we do. Please go ahead, Trevor.
Okay. So, look, as the last speaker, I'm kind of just going to summarize a lot of things. So some maybe a little bit of overlap, but hopefully I can be very succinct and we'll be out of here. I think net, when we look at this, this is a unique site. Yes, it's part of a subdivision, but this is a ravine site right on the waterfront trail. These proposed lots and the lot sizes, right, we don't feel that they're in the same spirit and are not really materially consistent with the lots that are along the section of the waterfront trail. Taking we believe, or I believe, the severance restrictions, right, that the city's placed on these ravine lots, it's being really broken with this application, right? They've kind of found a bit of a loophole here, right? We're conveying land to the TRCA so that they're able to sever the lots. If we leave the lot the way it is, it's unable to be severed. I think there's a reason why the city at a point in time built the lots this way so that they're unable to be severed. And then to compound on this, right, once these small lots are created, the smallest in this area, we're gonna add to that variances, which is going to create even bigger houses on smaller lots on a ravine property. The lot here, from my view, I'm on the other side of the street, right? This specific lot, lots of trees out front. It's on a bend in the road. With this effort to build the largest house possible on these small lots, they're going to be pushed closer to the road, right? Being a bend, it creates a bit of a blind corner, and it's just not going to keep it the streetscape along the section of the road, right? It's a major change to this area. The current house is set back with a fully treed front lawn, and the plans, at least, they show a single tree on the new property line in the middle. That's it, right? Right now, there's dozens of trees out front. There's no letters of support from the community. We've seen that, after consent has lapsed, the work is being done. They're being fined by the TRCA for doing work without a permit. Overall, the site plan being different, right, in this application, actions and really inaction of the owner, not consulting with neighbors in the process at all, and just the overall approach to this entire process, I think it really puts into question the developer's intent to honor kind of the official plan, the approved variances, everything that's going to come after that. There's a lot of unknowns here, and this seems to be potentially setting a bad precedent. I keep seeing that flash that comes up on the screen of all the lots, and I don't see land being conveyed to the TRCA so that people can sever lots happening all over the city. I looked, and this isn't normal, right? So I think it kind of breaks with that official plan. in summary, I guess, you know, I object as well. I agree with everybody else's kind of comments, and I hope we can kind of get this stopped.
Okay, thank you, Trevor.
Thanks.
Thank you. I just want to again clarify for record, and I hope everyone understands. The application that's before us today is a consent application. There are no associated minor variances with the consent application, which means that the two lots that are being created in terms of the lot area and lot frontage, they meet the zoning regulations. We did look into the previous decisions of the committee for the minor variances that were associated with the previous consent application. None of those variances related to the lot frontage and the lot area. I will leave it at that. I also want to clarify that the committee does not approve plans. The committee's mandate is to approve or deny the minor variances that are before us. So any changes or modifications to the bylaw applicable to the property, that's the mandate of the committee here. I'm going to leave it at that. Any questions for Trevor at this time? Oh, okay. If there are no questions, I believe this was the last speaker on the list, and others who had registered had advised us that they will not be speaking today. Thank you. I will now move to Peter. Peter, are you with us?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. So, Peter, you heard the concerns. I will just kind of, the ones that I was able to catch were there were some issues with trees being proposed at the back, conveyances from, as requested by TRCA, drainage, although it's not our mandate or jurisdiction, but I would like you to comment on the drainage that the immediate neighbor had some concerns with, and there were some comments on the view as well. So I'm going to leave it at that, and if there's anything else, please address. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, I've made notes here as I was listening to it. In terms, a lot of it has been answered by the committee itself in terms of frontages. These lots are pie-shaped lots, yet even being pie-shaped lots, the back width of the properties comply with the frontage requirements as well. So it's not that we're becoming very skinny at the back. We're still over 10.5 meters for the rear yard width as well. In terms of the scaling of the community, I understand that the drawings with the lot areas and looking at it out of context. It was in my client's interest to just sever it into two lots. It was the request of TRCA to give the back portion into their ownership to help enhance the natural features and to protect it, which is a mandate that both the Ravine of Toronto has and Natural Features Department and TRCA. It was not a lot of neighbors might be alluding to a quid pro quo here. We'll give you land, you give us that, but that is not the case here. Our original application to planning was just to divide the lot. It was only requested by TRCA to give them that portion. Now, in terms of the tree planting plan through Natural Ravine and regarding the NTRCA, we did an extensive slope stability study. The tree planting plan done by arborists and natural heritage consultants and with TRCA, the idea of trees is to help slope stability. It is a request by Ravine and Natural Features and TRCA. It helps with the stability of the slope and to help prevent any further erosion of the top of bank and that slope in the ravine. Our client has been requested and they will plant it, but a lot of this is due to the fact that it will actually enhance the stability of the natural features there by planting it and enhancing the slope stability. So I understand the view of the neighbors, the concern of a potential forest. It is a request from Natural Ravine and TRCA to help reinforce the stability of the slopes there. The one assertion was that if TRCA did not take the lots, that these lots would not comply. If TRCA did not take those lands, our lot areas would be much larger and even more so comply. If you can if that's a term you can use, more so comply. We comply now, and we would even more comply with 800-meter depth lots. It's not our requests for that land. It was TRCA's request for that land. The other issue, as committee has also reiterated, there's no frontage, know that. And it was my also understanding as a planner that the 4 tests apply to consent, minor variance, not consents. However, in terms of the official plan is designed and the zoning bylaw has to meet the intent of the official plan. We meet the intent of the zoning, and as a result, our lot, which was 90 feet wide, will now be more in line with all the neighboring properties around 45 to 50-foot lots. So I think the visualization of all the lots now will be more in line, because ours was the larger lot out of place compared to all these other lots in terms of frontages. I think I've addressed most comments.
Is there anything else? There was a drainage concern from the immediate.
Drainage concern. So the drainage concern, of course, when we prepare the draining plan, we have to prepare a draining plan showing that all water on our property will not travel onto neighbors' property. And engineering department and building department will be looking for swales to reinforce that item. In addition, with building permit applications, prior to getting a final sign off on it, there is a final grading inspection done by the city to ensure that all grading is done where no water, that all drainage is dealt with on our property and not infecting the neighbor's property. So that will, besides workmanship quality, which was brought up by the neighbors of concern of the builder, there is inspections done by building department for grading. So that will be adhered to.
Okay, and comments from TRCA obtaining the necessary permits, all of that has been noted and understood?
Yes, it has.
Okay. All right. Members of committee, any questions for Peter? Sure. Member Said has a question, Peter. Please go ahead.
Thank you very much, Peter, for all this elaboration. After hearing the comments both from the neighbors and interested parties and from you, one thing is emerging out. I was hearing the neighbors, out of 5 speakers, like 3 of them mentioned very clearly that there have been no consultations with them. Nobody reached out to them, although this development has been there for the last 2 years. Nothing has been done for the last December. That make the neighbors upset. Maybe, for example, they were not clear about that, what's going on there in terms of the development and getting the permits from the TRCA, what problems you have. I personally feel there is a lack of communication. Something is breaking. I will appreciate if there would have been a consultation with the immediate neighbors, especially those who are living on the right and left of the property. Like Ron mentioned, he's on 5 Broadmead Avenue and Beverly was on 9 Broadmead Avenue. Even they have never been reached by the owners, by the agent. So I think there is a need of consultation and better communication as a better neighborhood there. There are so many things which are going on. All of them are according to the requirements of different requirements. But the thing is, the level of understanding between different parties is not, they are not at the same page. So that will be one of my suggestion. So if you have more communication with the neighbors.
Okay, thank you.
Can I address that?
Sure, quickly, Peter.
Okay, it is my understanding, because I've had discussions with my client, number 9, Broadmead, there's been extensive conversations. There's been actually agreements being drafted up between the lawyers to say we're going to be building a fence, we're going to be correcting this. So I've witnessed those emails and those preliminary agreements myself between our property and 9 Broadmead, to look at, let's work on, what we could do with regrading and build fences in between, because they did have concerns with fences. And I've actually seen those preliminary agreements myself. So we have had extensive conversations with 9 Broadmead. Now 5 Broadmead, which just came to my attention only in the last couple of weeks, I've actually had kitchen table discussions about the design of the house with 5 Broadmead. Now, I don't know if 5 Broadmead's still online or not, but it's my understanding that the person we were discussing with, he's now sold it. So I don't know when it was sold, but when, we had discussions with the neighbors prior to this, and even with 5 Broadmead. I believe this is a new owner, which I was not aware of, but we did have even kitchen table talks with that person. Because this was a consent and it just lapsed, in all honesty, this was a project that was already approved. The community knew about it and had a time to voice the other time. Normally, it was just we resubmit and it got approved. I didn't realize there would be such a backlash since we've already been through this process again. So, in light of that, we did not circulate throughout the neighborhood again that, guys, it lapsed, we're going back in again. So we didn't think that's going to be an issue.
Okay.
So I apologize on that. But yeah, I understand your concern.
Okay, that's great. Thank you, Peter. And it's good to hear that every effort was made to connect with the neighbors, and especially when we hear that there's tabletop discussions happening. Anyways, we'll leave it at that. I think we've had some very good hearing on this one. I feel that we should be in committee now and be prepared to make a decision on this application. We've spent almost an hour on this one. So members of the committee, we are going to be, if there are no comments or any further questions or deliberations amongst the members, please may I have a motion on this. And just on record, we do have conditions of urban forestry, standard conditions of consent. Yeah.
Madam Chairman, as I have indicated, this is a very difficult application. It is a consent. The variances that were provided for have been approved. The lot frontage and the lot area conforms with the zoning bylaw. However, in dealing with a consent application, the big issue with the consent is whether a plan of subdivision is necessary for the appropriate development of the lands. Those are the issues. Under the plan of subdivision, I've forgotten, 8, 10 conditions. And each of those have to be addressed. It's dealing with drainage, it's dealing with tree preservation, it's dealing with slopes, it's dealing with engineering, it's dealing with a number of items, the sensitive nature, hazard lands. The plan of subdivision is designed to deal with those, and with the plan of subdivision upon approval, it states that the plan is approved subject to the following conditions. Those conditions become conditions of agencies that have to look at this and approve it and give guarantees. So a plan of subdivision is a much more comprehensive view of an area. And for 2 lots, it is unusual to give or to require a plan of subdivision. However, in this case, we're dealing with a number of issues. We're dealing with drainage issues. We're dealing with tree planting. We're dealing with slope stability. We're dealing with safety. We're dealing with access on a curve. And we're dealing with new construction. In my view, all of those items make this more appropriate for a plan of subdivision, which can give appropriate view of this and appropriate guarantees. Therefore, I recommend that this application for a consent be refused.
Okay, thank you, Member Macaulay. Before I ask, sorry, go ahead.
Do you want a motion or?
No, so you've just completed your comment, and I'm glad you didn't put a motion forward because I have a question for staff at this point. So staff, why was a consent application considered in lieu of a subdivision application for this project?
Through the chair, I can't comment why the applicant did submit a consent application over a draft plan of subdivision. What I can say, though, is that it's the same sections of it's the same criteria that are like for a consent application. It's 51 sub 24. It's the same criteria that are reviewed through consent as it is through a draft plan of subdivision. And consents you can secure the same matters that you can through a consent. You can secure them through a draft plan of subdivision. I won't provide my opinion. I'm just providing you the facts.
Fact, okay. So I asked for advice from staff in terms of what's the difference between consent and subdivision, and the advice that we received, or the factual information that we received, is that it would entail the same level of review as it would, or the matters subject to a draft plan would be similar to consent. So that's a fact, or the advice that we receive. We can now move to, we can go back to your point.
Okay.
If you do not have any further comment, can I please have a motion then? Or is anybody else prepared to put forward a motion?
I'm going to comment. Consents are generally dealt with very easily, very simply through staff, without any engineering, without any additional reports from consultants and professional staff. That's part of the difference between a consent and a plan of subdivision.
Okay. But remember,
what
Macaulay,
I don't
sorry,
see here,
I'm going to interject here.
What I don't see here is any conditions of consent that would provide me with assurances that the slope stability has been looked at and guaranteed, that the grading has been satisfactorily done and guaranteed by a professional engineer. It's those issues that the community has raised and that we have seen that the applicant is kind of, I'm sort of there, but I'm sort of not. That doesn't give me the confidence that a consent application is the most appropriate process for this very sensitive area.
Okay, thank you, Member Macaulay. Staff, any comments on the plan submitted and reviews conducted so far?
Through the chair, the application was circulated to TRCA. It was circulated to Ravine and Natural Area Protection, Transportation, City, Community Planning. So it was reviewed by engineering. Engineering did not have any comments or conditions. I can speak to the TRCA comments, which you have before you. They do, one of the conditions is condition number 1 is that the owner is required to work with their enforcement staff to resolve the violation, and a letter of conformance from their geotechnical engineer outlining that the grading works have been completed as per the recommendations of their report is a condition of approval from TRCA.
Okay, thank you, Colin. Member Macaulay? I think we've spent a lot of time on this.
Yes,
I
I have no further comments.
Okay.
I think the comments from the agency speak for themselves, where they said they've had difficulties.
Okay. All right. So based on this, please, a motion.
I put forth a motion that this application for a consent be refused.
Okay.
Based on the requirement that a plan of subdivision is necessary for the appropriate development of this very sensitive area.
Okay. So we have a motion on the floor to refuse the application. May I have a seconder, please?
Madam Chair, I would second that motion to refuse the application for slightly different reasons than Member Macaulay. But I agree that 5124 sets out that criteria, and one of the things we're asked to think about are the dimensions and shapes of the proposed lots. And I thought that was addressed well through the testimony of Mr. Robert McAllen today. So without further explanation, I'm in agreement that the application for consent should be refused.
Okay. All in favor of this motion? Motion's carried. Your application has been refused. Okay, need a 10-minute break?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you very much. We should be cognizant of the time, members of the committee. I just want to remind you, in fairness to a lot of items that have been held today. Please, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. We're back. We dealt with item 2. We are now going to item number 5. Item number 5 is 56 Allister Avenue. 4 was deferred, right? Okay, so I'm right, okay. So item 5, 56 Allister Avenue. We have with us Peter Jarusik. Peter, are you online with us?
Yes, I am.
Okay, all right. And we do have David and Renee. Okay. Okay, David. So you can mute your microphone until we ask you to come and speak. We're going to start hearing this item. This is item 5, 56 Allister Avenue to construct a new 2-story detached dwelling. And we have before us 5 variances. Peter, do you want to make a presentation or do you have anything to add?
I do have something actually to subtract.
Oh.
And knowing that the neighbors had concerns about the side of the house and speaking with the client earlier this week, we are removing variance number 1, which is the floor space index, and variance number 4, which is 19.3 depth required when the building depth is 19. So we have shrunk the house to comply with FSI and to comply with building depth. So number 1 and number 4 has been eliminated.
Okay, thank you. So I'm going to repeat.
In addition, the height is 9.6. We lowered the roof to 9.6 from 9.92.
Okay, 9.6?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm just going to repeat the modifications. Anything else, Peter?
I'd like the front elevation shown just as part of my presentation to explain the front elevation and the 9.6.
Okay, so just give me a minute. I want to recap the changes and then we'll let you walk through the elevation. So members of committee, and for those who are listening to us, David and Renee, there's been a change proposed by Peter today on the floor. Variance number 1, which was the maximum permitted floor space is 4.4 times the lot area, whereas the proposed floor space is 0.41. So that variance has been removed. So with the revision, they will comply with the maximum permitted floor space. A revision to variance number 2, they have lowered the roof height and it is now being proposed at 9.6. Variance 3 remains as is. Variance number 4 has been eliminated, and that was the maximum permitted building depth. And variance number 5 remains as is. Is there a change to variance 5 as well?
Yes, variance number 2 and 5 are both 9.6 under the old bylaw and under the City of Toronto bylaw.
Oh, it's the old and new. Sorry. Okay. Right. Okay, perfect. So they both require 9 and the proposed is 9.6. Okay, so variance 2 and 5 are together in a way.
Through the chair, was that 9.1 meters that's being proposed?
9.6.
9.6.
Okay, sorry.
Okay. So for both the variance number 2 and variance number 5, there's a revision to the proposed height, and it is 9.6. Okay, hopefully we've been able to capture all this. Okay, so I will now, please proceed with, okay.
Just to confirm, the maximum length of the building has not changed. It's still 19.3 meters.
So Peter, the building length is the same?
19. That would change to 19. My apologies. You're correct. That would change to 19 because we comply with the building depth at 19 now. So the building length is now 19 as well. Correct.
That's a good catch, Member Macaulay. So it's 19 meters now. The proposed building length is 19 meters. Okay. So almost every variance has been touched. Variance 1 and 4 have been eliminated. 2 is now at 9.6. 3 is now at 19 meters. And number 5 is now at 9.6. Okay. Peter, elevation, please.
Yes, if I don't know if Brian's controlling or not, but if I can get the elevation.
He's getting it.
There we go. So if you can zoom in there, if you look at the grade at the garage and the property lines, we have fairly deep lots here that kind of slope down. Yet for every property, you want to have proper drainage to the road. So we have a minimum 2% slope to the garage. So from the garage, bottom grade of garage door to the roof, we actually do have now 9 meters compliance. But because it slopes down, the majority, as you can see, the established grade is actually below the house. It's actually in the basement. So that's why we are still requesting a little bit of a height. But from the bottom of the garage to the top of the roof, we are compliance of 9 for the grading at that point there. So for the majority of the house, it is at 9, but just for the fact of how established grade is defined, we have to request that extra 0.6 to make it comply. And in terms of the depth, we comply with FSI coverage, all the side yard setbacks. The only request is because of the size of house my client's looking for, we need that additional depth.
Okay, so Peter, just to clarify, should the committee approve this application, would you have any issue with tying this elevation with the approval?
Except for the fact that this elevation still says 9.92. So it'd be the 9.6 version of it, which I pretty much cut that top line to where the peak of those gables are at the top.
Okay, all right. We'll deliberate on it when it comes to that. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Members of the committee, any questions for Peter? Okay. Peter, anything else before we proceed to the speakers?
No, I think this one's fairly self-explanatory in terms of size and variances.
Okay, thank you.
Meets the
Okay, thanks, Peter. David and Renee, are you on the phone with us?
Yes, we are.
Yes, we are.
Okay.
David will be speaking for the two of us.
Okay, thank you, David and Renee. David, please go ahead. You have the floor.
Thank you. Yes, I have, first off, David Buchholz. I live directly across from the proposed building. Now, I have a real concern with the overall size of this house. It is huge as far as I'm concerned, and it really is out of character to the rest of the houses in our neighborhood. I'm also a little concerned that with these variants, now I realize they've dropped some of the variances, but in general, once these variances get approved, that just opens the floodgates for new developers to come in and say, well, they got away with it, so we're going to go for more. And it just seems to me that this is how they ladder their way up into creating larger and larger houses in the neighborhood. The other concern that I have is with the size of this property, it means that very large mature trees will more than likely be destroyed and stick-sized trees will be replaced. And I'm very concerned with this. It's happening throughout our neighborhood, and I don't see any changes that will take place contrary to what has been happening. So anyways, that's my concern right now. Yeah, is there anything else?
Oh, well, I was going to indicate that there were concerns, similar concerns of our property at 72, or I believe it was 74 Oak Ridge Drive. And there was a certain number of trees that were indicated to be destroyed or injured, but they went far, far beyond that. And to the best of my knowledge, there were no repercussions for that.
Many trees were taken down that were not on the list for destruction, and I'm concerned that this might happen with this new proposed building.
Okay, so Dave and Renee, I can't speak to the other reference that you have provided.
No, I realize.
But I can let you know that this application was circulated to Urban Forestry, city's Urban Forestry Department, and they do have 2 conditions that they have provided on this application. And actually there's one condition. There's one condition, and that's condition number 2, and that condition pertains to submission of a complete application for a permit to injure or remove a privately owned tree. So if there's a removal, if there's an injury to a tree or a tree being removed on private property, they have to secure a permit. So that's what we have been advised by our urban forestry division.
But what we are seeing on a fairly regular basis is that these are when we see notices of trees that are to be injured or removed. A lot of the time, that many more are injured or removed than what is shown on the signage outside of the property.
Okay. No, I appreciate your comment and observation, Renee, except that I'm unable to speak on that notion because it's beyond the jurisdiction of this committee, and I'm sure our city staff are listening, and if they have to do anything, they will, but unfortunately, I can't speak to this matter. What I can focus on today is certainly on this application, and we will have more clarification from the agent in terms of which trees are being removed, and how many of those and where they are, and that they understand that a permit will be required if they were to proceed with the removal of those trees. So we will certainly ask Peter to confirm and explain that to us. Is there anything else related to the variances themselves? So as you know, and I hope you caught it, there's some amendments made to the variances. So the variance number one, which related to the size of the house or the FSI, has been removed, so which means that they would have to now comply with the maximum permitted FSI, which is this floor space area. So they will be restricted to that. And that they have lowered the height of the building from 9.92 to 9.6, which is approximately a foot less. And then they have modified the building length from 19.3 to 19 meters, which again is like a foot less. They have eliminated variance number 4 to now comply with the maximum permitted building depth. And again, the height has been has been reduced to 9.6. So I hope you captured that.
I did.
Okay. And anything else you want to add before I proceed to Peter? Because we won't be able to come back to you.
Do you have anything?
There were some concerns my husband and I both shared about the usage of the property, that it might be because of the size, that it might be turn into multiple dwellings and causing multiple like parking issues on the street and so on. The possibility of
Is it a single family dwelling?
Yes, it is. The application says it is a new 2-story detached dwelling. And again, it's not in the committee's mandate or jurisdiction to control how many units. Well, it is in a way, but what I'm just trying to say is that what we have before us is an application for a single 2-story detached dwelling.
Okay, right. But you have no control over the number of families or use?
No. Well, the use, as long as it's residential, absolutely, that has to be maintained. In terms of family, what constitutes a family, how many members or how many people will be living in the house, that's not our mandate, or it's outside of our scope. Okay?
Yeah. Usage of Airbnb as an Airbnb. Is that legal in this neighborhood?
I'm not sure. You would have to contact city department to confirm that. And again, Airbnb or any such use of the property, if there's a concern in the future, and typically when residents do see that a particular house or building is not being used for what it's intended to, typically those complaints are made to the city's bylaw department and then enforcement, and then they do what they need to do at that point.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for your time. Any questions for Renee or David, committee members? None? Okay. Peter Jerusik, can we have you back?
I'm here.
Okay, so Peter, you heard the concerns, the size of the house, and there were some trees. You understand that urban forestry requires a permit, but what can you show us on the plan which trees are being removed?
None of them.
Okay, so is that condition that in the event?
I don't know if you have Do you have the, if Brian could bring up the topo, the original survey? So the original survey, there's a large concrete block garage wall, garage, and there's a 0.60 tree there where his cursor was from a minute ago. That's the only tree that is currently in line with the house, but now currently there's a garage wall with a full foundation under it. Our house is now being pulled further away from that tree. That tree has grown based on that. So there, of course, there's an application for injury, and through my experience, normally the forestry has asked us to be careful through there and maybe hand dig around that tree. I don't know if that'll be the case here because we're still now 5 feet away from it as opposed to 2. But there should be no the root structure and whatnot. That's the only tree. Everything else is being maintained. Even the front tree on the city property is a large one. That one is still shown. We've put the driveway on the other side. So
Okay.
we've kind of built this house over the existing house, the existing garage, and the open backyard space that they had. So as of right now, there's no trees to be removed.
Is there any tree preservation plan for that protection of that tree? Although
Not
it's
as of
5
yet.
feet.
That
Okay.
follows after this as part of the application that forestry is requesting.
Okay, all right. So I just wanted to kind of, so I guess you will consult with urban forestry, and if any tree preservation is required, then there will be adequate measures there. Because 5 feet, and again, I'm not sure the maturity of the tree, but 5 feet is well within the drip line of any mature tree. So I would suggest that you speak with urban forestry, and if there's any injury, potential injury anticipated, then of course there will be permits required for that. Okay.
Right. No, that's why I was trying to note that the actual garage, which is there, has a foundation going down in that area already, and we're pulling the new foundation wall further away. In any case, it would actually allow the roots even more generous space now to start growing.
I see. Okay, all right. Thank you very much for that. Members of committee, oh, sorry, is there anything else that you would like to address that were raised by David and Renee?
In terms of the size of the house, we've complied with zoning in terms of FSI coverage, front yard, side yard setbacks. The only thing we're requesting, as I mentioned, for the height issue, it's a grading issue that kind of pushes it a little bit higher for that. So I think the 9.6 is acceptable in my opinion from what has been allowed in the past in this neighborhood. Secondly, the 2-meter depth. That's the only one there that we're requesting, but we still meet the coverage and the FSI for this lot. And the FSI is 0.4, which is quite low because it's such a large lot. And we're still adhering to the building area for that. So I think this meets the 4 tests of the Planning Act for minor variances. And I leave the decision up to committee.
Okay, thank you. Members of committee, please. Anne Macaulay?
Yes. Looking at the survey, I guess, plot plan, there's a tree in the front yard. Mike, I thought you wanted to know the drawing number, the one that the staff had up there just previously. Any case, question very quickly. There's a tree in the front yard. I don't see any other trees in the front yard, and I see a whole bunch of trees on the side and rear yards. Can you tell me what those trees are? What kind of trees are they?
The ones in the rear of the property?
Yeah.
Oh, the rear.
I don't have the catalog of the trees in front of me now. We haven't. We're going to be retaining an arborist to do the tree preservation plan for the trees that are closest. The majority of the trees, a lot of them are pine, like spruce. I'm not an arborist. There might be some birch trees down there. I'm taking guesses right now. I haven't cataloged them. I'm not an arborist.
Okay.
But they're all being maintained. They're all being maintained. And the one that's right beside our property, that is a spruce tree. I know that one. The one that's potentially to be injured is only a spruce tree.
Okay, and the tree in the front yard, do you know whether that is a fairly significant tree? I see that you're going to maintain it in any case. The forestry are only asking for a permit to injure or remove a tree. So
Right.
presumably, you won't have a tree preservation plan, you'll just have a permit for your one tree, is that correct?
Injury, yeah, and that's for injury, unless they deem it not salvageable or whatnot. But the one in the front, if you drive by and you look at Google Earth, even in the street view, it's pretty much a dead tree. There's not much life to it. I think it was an ash and got ravaged by the emerald ash bug.
Okay, so you may have to
Everybody got
replace two
confused.
trees. But we'll leave that
The tree,
with urban
well, yeah, the
forestry.
tree's still there. The tree's still there. But I think maybe the neighbors who are speaking, they could probably speak more to the condition of that tree as of today. But for what I known, it was a sickly tree, so I don't know what the condition of it is right now.
But that's in the public right away.
It is, so we're not touching it, and we don't
So
have
they're
to.
so they're not touching it.
Okay. No, I recognize they weren't proposing to touch it. It's the only tree that the neighbors across the street would actually see.
I see. Okay. Yeah. So if David and Renee are listening, that particular tree is in the public right away, and there's no intention through this application to remove that particular tree. The comment from Urban Forestry relates to a tree in the backyard, and that is to I guess the intent would be to preserve it, but if there would be any injury or removal, then they would have to secure the permits from the Urban Forestry. Okay. Thank you. And any further question? Anyone? Okay. Before I proceed, Peter, is there anything else you would want to say in closing?
No, I believe this one's fairly straightforward. I think I've made my points clear to the committee.
Okay, thank you, Peter. Members of committee, let's take the matter into committee for deliberation or a motion. Member Said.
Thank you, Peter, for making the necessary changes, amendments there, bringing it close to the bylaws requirements. Madam Chair, I am willing to support this application. And the amendments we discussed, variance number 1 have to be removed. Variance number 2, the height is going to be read as 9.6. Variance number 3, the length is not to be read as 19 meter. Variance number 4 to be removed. And variance number 5, the height is noted to be 9.6. And also to the condition of urban forestry.
Okay, thank you. May I have a seconder?
Madam Chair, I'll second that.
Okay, Member Macaulay seconds the motion. All in favor of this motion? Motion's carried. Peter, your application has been approved as modified on the floor today, and subject to conditions of urban forestry.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. We will now move to item number 6. Item number 6, 144 Harding Boulevard. An application to construct a new detached dwelling, and a previous Committee of Adjustment application approved variances for front yard setback and landscaping, however, had refused variances for coverage, floor area, and height. And I believe the application that we have before us is some revision to that, to the lot coverage and the FSI and the number of stories. So we have with us, Peter, you're there?
I am.
Okay. So we have Peter, and I will not do the roll call again, or do you want me to do the roll call? I guess we can proceed. We'll call them. We've already done that this morning. So Peter, would you please clarify for me, so I understand that the previous committee decision was to refuse the variances for the coverage, floor area, and height, and you've come back today with variances for those same performance standards. Can you tell us the difference between what was presented at the last application as compared to today?
Okay. Okay, so I just checking my mic was on. In terms of the application, we've done a redesign of the house, taking into account the neighbors' comments at that previous meeting and their concerns. The other house was originally a flat roof, modern-looking house. We have now had a pitched roof and did some lowering of the house, which eliminated height variance. Originally, I believe, I'm just trying to pull up the number here. Our request for the coverage was much higher. I think we're closer to 39%, and we've reduced the house size to comply with 0.6 FSI. I believe it was 0.74, where before we were asking for 0.79. and our coverage was 39%, and now we're asking for 33%. The proposed 3 to 2 story, that's under the old bylaw. The new bylaw does not define this house as a 3-story house. It is what we call a reverse walkout almost, as if you look at the rear elevation of the house, it's a straight 2-story house. It is no much higher than the neighbor's house at the rear. The concern, the rear elevation is just a normal 2-story house with a low sloping roof. But because the grade drops dramatically at the front, we have cut the garage into that grade. And under the old bylaw, it defines that as a 3-story house. But the new bylaw has eliminated those concerns. But since it's still in force and effect on this clause in particular, it's still a part of the variance. But as you can see from the rear elevation on the screen, it's a 2-story house, and I've lowered the roof as much as possible to give the views and sunlight to 412, which is the minimum roof before it becomes classified as a flat roof. So to help out with any concerns for the neighbors for height, which eliminated the height variance as well. So I believe these new variances take into account by reducing the house square footage. The square footage of the house is around 1,800 square feet or 176 square meters. We comply with height, comply with all the other variants, comply with all the other standards of the zoning bylaw. We're just requesting this. So I think that in listening to what the neighbors were requesting before, we've reduced it to a level which I believe, compared to other houses in the neighborhood, which have received even greater variances than this, but we do want to help out the neighbors in terms of making it not as prominent as some of the other houses in the neighborhood, and reduce it to make something still functional for my client, but still listening to what the concerns were of the neighbors.
Okay, thank you. Members of committee, any clarification or questions? Please. Member Macaulay has a question.
Yes, I'm looking at your building elevations, in particular your height. Can you explain again why this is considered 3 stories?
Okay, if you could bring up the front elevation, so I'm on the same page as you guys. Okay, so the grade at the back, it becomes what they call almost like a reverse walkout. So even though, if you look at the line on the right-hand side where it says main floor, when you see that main floor line, the backyard is just 6 to 7 inches lower than that at the backyard. So the grade rises up to that level. So I have to make the house a certain height just to make sure the backyard is not in the ground for any sliding door or whatnot. So it's a reverse slope. In some other cases, in subdivisions, you would have a front yard that looks like 2 stories and the grade drops and you'll have a walkout basement. So this is like a reverse walkout where the front of the house is much lower than the back of the house. So we have to work with the grades here, but the established grade is calculated at the front of the house. So at the front of the house, we have it at that, as you see the established grade here. And though it appears 3 stories, the garage is kind of set into the basement because of that kind of quasi-reverse walkout situation. But when you look at the main floor and you look at the rear elevation, it's just a 2-story house at the backyard. That's why the new bylaw takes out any of that language that would create that as a 3-story house. It was only on the older bylaw that still defined it as a 3-story.
Okay, so as I understand, this house now looks to be 3 stories at the front because of the grade and 2 stories at the rear. If we approve this application subject to your front elevation as shown and your rear elevation as shown, would you have any problems with that?
I would not.
Okay, thank you. No other questions.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Okay. Mr. Jurusik, before I proceed to the speakers, is there anything else you want to add, or can we proceed?
No, I'm sure I'm going to be talking a little bit after the neighbors, so I'll reserve my right to talk after any other issues.
Okay, thank you. So we will now move to the speakers, and my apologies, I think I pronounced the name incorrectly. The last name is Lynch. Are you with us? Is it Shauna
Hi
Lynch?
there.
Okay,
Hi there. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. How do you pronounce your first name?
Oh, Shona.
Shona. Okay, sorry about that. Okay, so Shona, we have you here with us. Please tell us what concerns you have with this application.
Okay. First of all, I just want to say I've spoken to a few neighbors this morning. They intended on attending the virtual hearing, but due to work commitments, they can no longer attend. So Stephanie Burke and Mark Singleton
Which ones?
and Kat and Joe Daquila.
Sorry,
So
Shauna.
they just wanted me to let.
Shauna,
Yes.
sorry, there was a little bit of a delay and we didn't catch you. So who will not be speaking? Could you just slowly read out the names?
Oh, Stephanie Burke
Okay,
and Mark Singleton.
okay,
They can't make it due to work commitments.
okay, no problem. So Stephanie Burke and Mark Singleton will not be at this hearing right now.
No, they just wanted me to let you know that they've already submitted letters of objection 3 times now, and that they strongly oppose the variances.
Okay, so I've jotted that down, and I believe we do have all the letters of objections. And if that has been submitted, I'm sure we have read them as part of this hearing. Okay, thank you very much, Shauna. Please go ahead with your concerns.
Okay, I just wanted to say this is now the 3rd Committee of Adjustment meeting. At the first meeting, a previous Committee of Adjustment member, Miss M, she drove by the site before the meeting and stated that she was absolutely appalled at what was being proposed. So I need to know exactly what has changed since Miss M was appalled. Basically nothing. He's still trying to build a 3-story building. He keeps suggesting that there's a new bylaw in place which doesn't make it a 3-story. Then I don't understand why this is a variance. So as far as I'm concerned, it's listed as a variance. He's attempting to build 3 stories, which is 50% more than the bylaw allows. The gross floor area is still over 25% greater than permitted. And the lot coverage is still over 10% than what's permitted. So how can these variances be considered minor? They're not. And I want to remind the committee that the first meeting, we submitted a petition with over 150 signatures opposing these variances. The neighbors, the community, we have said no loudly and clearly. We just request the committee respect our wishes, which is only to uphold bylaws which are already in place for a good reason. This is our 3rd committee meeting, as mentioned before. The first hearing was deferred so the applicant could consult with the community. Well, we're now at our 3rd meeting and we're still waiting to be consulted. Which brings me to the most preposterous part of this whole situation. Last week, I received in my mailbox an invitation from the agent to all immediate neighbors for an update on 144 Harding. And the update was to take place on Tuesday, July 21st. So the land's been owned for over a year. He already submitted his revised plans, if you can call them that, months ago. He'd already been advised twice by the committee to consult with the neighbors, and he failed to do so. So he waits until 2 days before the 3rd Committee of Adjustment meeting, and he waits until a global pandemic to do this. It's outrageous. So I emailed the applicant and I advised him we're not permitted to gather in groups of 10 or more during COVID. And since there were well over 10 interested parties, we wouldn't all possibly be able to make it. So I asked if he'd like to email me his update and I would forward it to everyone. Well, I never received an acknowledgement.
Okay,
or
sorry, Sean, I'm going to cut in here. I would really appreciate if you can focus on, and I, you know what, and these are very good comments about consulting and communication and the timing of it. But that's beyond something that I'm looking at. I'm really interested in hearing your exact concerns with the application that's before us.
No problem. So basically, if you read my letter, which I know you all did,
Mm-hmm.
the building is too big,
Mm-hmm.
it's too long, it's intrusive, it's going to break up the continuity of the west side of Harding Boulevard. Directly to the north of me, it's all bungalows. And to the south of me is Century Homes. So it's going to prevent me from the my backyard. Going to block my sunlight, which will ruin my existing landscape. It's going to ruin my view and the spacious feeling between the backyards. And it's going to invade my privacy. So I ask that no deferrals are granted and you just refuse these variances outright. The applicant has twice now disregarded the committee's recommendations to consult with us. The agent today is involved in 5 different applications at this hearing. So he's not new to this. He knows exactly what he was asked to do, and he refused to do it. I just want to say he's made no justifiable reason to build outside these bylaws other than financial gain.
Okay.
How many meetings is it going to take before it's accepted that the applicant is just throwing stuff at the wall?
Okay. Okay, sorry, I'm again going to have to interrupt you, Shauna. I appreciate all this, but I guess we should refrain from any personal, comments on anyone in particular. Our job here is to strictly look at the variances, talk about the technical matters, talk about, the variances themselves, and then go from there. So I really appreciate your comments, and I think we've heard that you have concerns with all the variances that are before the committee today, and I appreciate all the background and the history that you've provided to us. Okay.
Thanks a lot for listening.
No, I appreciate your time that you took to come and speak with us. Shauna, before you go, I just want to ask our members, committee members, if they have any questions for you at this time. Members of the committee? No? Okay. All right. Thank you, Shauna, for your time. There are no questions for you at this time.
Okay, thanks a lot.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Okay. The next on the list is Ian and Joel Reed. Ian and Joel?
Yes, that's Ian Reed. Yes, I'm speaking on behalf of both of us. We live directly across the street at 145 Harding. And I have also heard that our immediate neighbor, John Beer, had to leave the meeting. So I don't believe he'll be speaking after me.
Okay.
So I know Shauna covered some of the issues. So I just want to focus on, items that are more relevant to you. So they're specific numbers. So the 3 variances that are proposed, as mentioned before, they were previously rejected at the January 23rd meeting. The 3 variances, 2 have only had minor adjustments to them. So the proposed lot coverage has been reduced from 39% to 36%, or actually 36.8%. And the bylaw apparently states the maximum allowed is 33%. So this variance is still requesting 10% more than the allowed maximum. The gross floor area. So the current proposal is for 0.74. The previous proposal was for 0.77, so he's knocked down all of 0.03. whereas the current bylaw is a maximum of 0.6. So he's gone a fraction of the difference between the previous proposal to the bylaw, but the current proposal is still over 25% greater than the allowed maximum. And then the third variance is for the number of stories, where apparently the bylaw says maximum of 2, but we're still proposing 3, which, if you look at basic numbers, that's 50% greater than the allowed maximum. Now, I know in the agent's presentation, he talked about the grading of the lot, so that's relevant as well for the impact on people. So there is a small ridge that runs parallel to the street itself along the west side of Harding, and there's many houses on this that are built on top of that ridge. That ridge, at the point where the houses begin, about 5-6 meters back from the sidewalk, is at close to 6 feet above sidewalk grade. So any house built on that location is going to be starting from a higher point. That ridge actually drops off at the back of the property. So the people behind this property on Avalon Boulevard, their grade is actually starting at about 6 meters below, or sorry, 6 feet below the grader's lot. And you can see from the slide that's just been put up there, the contour line showing how there is that drop off between the Harding houses and Avalon. So I know from the letters of objection that have been submitted from Avalon people that they are strongly concerned about a house of this height, which is extending as far back in the lot as the proposal is, that will be overlooking their backyard. So we're talking several meters higher than their backyards or even their back windows of their house. So they'll be looking down on an angle. So those numbers right there present how this proposal is going to present an imposition on the neighbors. Shauna's is the bungalow. This house is going to be towering over her house to the south in the direction of sunlight and extending much further back in the lot than the previous house that has been demolished. So there's going to be much further of a structure going back and providing shade on her backyard and all of the impacts to one's enjoyment of the backyard that shade would provide. So Sean had also mentioned the impacts of the streetscape. Yet this is going to be a significantly bigger, more imposing structure than had existed previously, especially dominating the houses to the north. And I'd also like to highlight that a previous deputant on item 5 had specifically highlighted how a pattern with these variances is that once an initial variance is granted, a precedent has been set, and so subsequent designs are always trying to push that limit a little more. Here we're starting off with variances that are asking for, at a minimum, 10% greater than allowed, and up to 25% or even 50% greater than allowed bylaws. So if we're allowing that, then subsequent developer can come along and say, oh, well, if you allowed 10% more, well, what's another 5% on top of that? Or what's another 5% on top of that one? And then we're down the slippery slope of, well, it's just, what do the bylaws really mean then if we're going to go to that extent? So I guess lastly, it's back to the third variance with respect to the number of stories. So this is, again, relevant to the grade that the agent specifically talked about and how that property does slope down significantly to the sidewalk itself. And so hence, any height that he's building up for the proposal
Sorry, Ian, I have to interrupt. Your time's up.
Sure.
It was, yeah. So unless you want to do a closing remark before I proceed to the next speaker?
Yeah, I guess basically is a question that Sean had also mentioned, that if there's a new bylaw that the agent has mentioned, it's not clear at all why the old one is of relevance. And if the old one is not relevant, why are we talking about it? And if it is of relevance, then obviously we should be looking at complying with it.
Okay, so I'll tell you, I can speak to that part. So as of now, there's an old bylaw for the Scarborough, okay? And then Toronto now has a new bylaw, which was, I guess, approved by City Council in 2013, but because of several appeals over the years has been held and has not been completely approved and is still not in effect. But the intent is that should that bylaw be approved and in effect, the new regulations will be applicable moving forward. But until such time, the old bylaw also has to be looked at and reviewed, and any proposal has to be reviewed under both sets of bylaws. Okay, so that's why the old bylaw, there's a variance under the old bylaw that's required. Let's say if miracle happens and tomorrow the old bylaw is repealed and the new bylaw is in effect, that variance will not be required. Okay, so that's why as of today we have to look at both the variances, both the bylaws. So that's the explanation on that. And I think I've captured, I was making some notes, I've captured your comments, but we will leave it to Peter Jerusik to address the concerns that you've raised. Okay? All right, we will now move to our third participant, Gray and Susan.
Hello, thank you, Madam Chair. And yeah, some of the points have been just raised about things. We live on Avalon. We are one of the houses one of the properties that are in that lower elevation that's about 6 to 8 feet lower than the grade of that property that's being proposed.
Mm-hmm.
Our concern is one of privacy. It's one of having a property that is that long, extending back on the lot of that height, which is then overlooking our property. So it's one that really relates to privacy. There has been no consultation. I do the committee for the opportunity, and also thank Peter for showing and doing a presentation in terms of the elevations of what's being proposed. This is the first time that I've actually seen the building that's being proposed in any way. So those are really the major concerns that we have. The three. There are the three variances that are being applied for. We stand in opposition to each of those three. So in terms of the size of the property, being the size of the building, particularly the length and how far it comes back, the height in terms of how it overlooks. But we don't see this as being in compliance with the existing bylaw. And any bylaw that's being proposed that's not yet being accepted which is under contention. I would suggest to the committee that that's not something that can really be measured against. So it has to meet with the existing bylaw, in my view. So those are pretty much my opinion.
Okay.
That's kind of it.
Okay. And Mr. Graffam, just so you know, we do have your letter on file and we have read your concerns. So I appreciate you summarizing the comments that you've already provided to us previously. Thank you for that. Before I proceed, any questions for Mr. Gray? None? Okay, thank you. Thank you, Gray, for your time and your presentation. Appreciate that. Okay, we will now move. Okay, thanks. We will now move to, I guess we had 3 listed speakers, but we've been advised by their fellow neighbors that Stephanie Burke, John Beer, and Janine Morrison, and Mauro Singleton, and Rita Kelly are not going to be speaking due to other commitments. So I guess that brings us to the end of the speakers that we had listed. Now I will go back to Peter. Peter, you've heard the concerns from all the residents, and I hope you've taken some notes. Could you respond to the concerns that have been raised?
First of all, I don't know if Brian has the letters that the neighbors wrote, but Mr. Gray did write a letter, and he had a picture of his backyard. I don't know if Brian can show that onto the screen.
We have it on our in our package.
Okay, so if you look at it's a picture that he took from his backyard looking at the 144 Harding before the house was removed. Let me know if you guys have that picture in front of you. Yeah, this picture now that Brian has put up. the discussion has been that this house is going to be overlooking onto Avalon. Avalon is one point at the back property line for to the back of our house to the back of our property line. The property line is 1.6 meters higher at the rear yard than where the house is. So I don't know what why I think there must be a disconnect in terms of what this house is going to look like for the neighbors, because they're saying this is going to be towering and overlooking on Avalon now. Yet Avalon at our rear yard is 1.6 meters elevated higher than our house. It's a fairly steep hill coming down. And if you look at this original house, I want you to kind of look at this house that we see here, 144, which has now been demolished. Our house is in essence the same at the backyard. We have a deck, low to the ground, ground floor, second floor, and the pitch of the new roof is actually less than this old house was there. So our pitch of the roof is only 412 to minimize it. We are not requesting a height variance here. So I think there's a little bit disconnect on what maybe what the neighbors are thinking the back of the house or how it's going to tower over Avalon. It is not going to. Now, looking at the front of the house, the 3-story, the existing neighbor's house on the south side, not the bungalow, but the other one, our eaves troughs would line up. His would be considered a 3-story in terms of grading calculation if he were to apply for the same type of house he has today onto this property because of where they define the grading. Our house elevation eaves troughs line up with the neighbors on the south side, the 2-story house there. So there, besides the bungalow, of course, that's a bungalow. The 3-story house issue, I know it looks like it's 50% increase, but that's just a technicality because of the steep slope of the house, of the land, which defines that. And I'm sure the committee has dealt with similar situations in other properties as well and understands that. I'd want to draw attention to, they look really comes to mind is, I believe it is I'm just trying to remember what the address is. I just had it up here on my screen. The modern house is on the corner of the property. I think it's 123 Harding Boulevard. There were 2 modern houses built there. They were granted 0.996 FSI, were granted their 3-story, and they had a flat lot, so that is a full 3-story house. I believe one of the opposition letters showed pictures of that corner house as well. We are not setting a precedent here. That other house, and I agree, is grossly overbuilt. We are requesting a house here that's only 1,800 square feet in the neighborhood. It complies with depth, complies with our setbacks, front yard, side yard. We were granted a front yard setback on the last meeting, which is fine because we want to bring the house forward to eliminate more, to allow more of the neighbors to have light. But if we push the house back to 6 meters, which was required, we would still comply with all the side yard setbacks. We moved it forward to assist the neighbors and bring it more in line with the front yard of the house. In my mind, in my estimation here, in my opinion, we are below what anybody else has been requesting in terms of new development in the area. They've been requesting 0.36, 0.8, 0.4 in coverage. And even that large house on those 2 houses on 123, they were granted 0.996 FSI and 3 stories. And they were granted 36% coverage as well. So in light of that, we've listened to at the previous meeting their concerns. We dropped the height variance. We've dropped the square footage of the house with any depth. We're asking for an 1,800 square foot house for my client who has a family and has a need for 1,800 square feet, which is not overly built in this neighborhood. So I think there might be a little bit of disconnect on what they're visualizing this house is going to look like compared to what they're saying in terms of Avalon overlook and whatnot. So I don't know how to more make it clear, but except for maybe 3D images of the house. But I believe I do know the committee, you've dealt with these type of situations with rear walkouts. And I leave it up to you guys in terms of your expertise in this situation as well. I believe this meets the 4 tests. We've reduced it to a level which meets a lot of the neighbors' concerns. Of course, we can't make them 100% happy. I understand that. But my client does have requirements as well. And I believe this is a good compromise, I wouldn't use the word compromise, a good solution here to the situation here.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Jurusik. Members of committee, questions for Mr. Jurusik? Yes, please.
Yes, I'm just looking at your statistics here. Where does it say, I'm looking at T1. It says total net area 1897 square feet. Has that changed?
The requested FSI, the floor space index of this house, is what's on the requested on the variance, which is 179 now.
176.
176, yes. So that is what we've applied for now. The statistics, I don't know, maybe it wasn't edited, and I apologize if the title page missed that edit, but that is what we're asking for, 176. I know we cut like 2-3 feet off the house to reduce the depth of it and to make the coverage to 36 as opposed to 39. Originally, I'm the second designer on this project. I wasn't part of the first one, but they requested, I think, 41% coverage. Then the last one came out to 39.4% coverage, and we've reduced it now to 36.4% coverage here. So we've been reducing the house. Regardless of what that number is, we are requesting 179 on the variance. So
176, Peter, I'm going to repeat.
sorry, 176. I'm dyslexic on the 9.
It's okay. So it's 176 that's being requested.
Yeah.
Regardless of what's shown on that statistics page.
Correct.
So your total square footage is 176 square meters. Is that correct?
Yes.
Of floor area, correct. So 176 square meters equals to 1894. So actually, when you look at this, sorry, I'm looking at the T1.
So then that one is correct.
That's incorrect. That's incorrect.
It does say 176.27 on my T1.
It says 176.27, which equates to
1897 square feet.
That's correct.
Yeah, so it is correct. 176.27. Well, the 27, I guess I have to reduce 0.27 because we didn't round it the other way.
So if you round it down, it's 176, and that's public notice.
Yes, and I'll have to adjust it to remove that 0.27.
And that equates to approximately 1,900 square feet of a home.
And we're complying with all the setbacks.
What's the height of the house?
The height of the house?
Mm-hmm.
I have my AutoCAD here open. .81.
And that met the zoning bylaw, or did you obtain a variance for that?
It's 9 meters. We're actually 0.2 or 0.1, 19 centimeters lower than bylaw.
Okay, so, and there was no variance obtained for that, right? Because it's under 9 meters. Okay, so the height, they meet the height requirement, but it's the stories. And that is the great differential at the front, but at the back, it's 2 stories.
Yes, I understand. I've looked at that, and I've also asked the applicant if he's willing to comply with these drawings that show 3 stories at the front and 2 stories at the back. I was also looking at the impact of the building on the neighbors. And on the one neighbor, it is long, but they've got a garage. On the other neighbor, yeah, it is long. However, the backyard is a fairly generous backyard, even with this new construction. So the length of the backyard to the properties on Avamore, still a reasonable backyard. So thank you very much for that information.
You're welcome.
And what's the building length here? Sorry, Brian.
It complies. Let me open up the AutoCAD file, see if I can get you the exact
So
number.
it should be 17
I
meters
think it
then?
was 16. Yeah,
Okay.
it'll be on these plans. 15.87.
Okay.
I think it's around 16 meters, so a meter less than what the bylaws permit.
So what's causing the lot coverage then? The FSI. Hmm.
The FSI, because the garage is lower into the ground, we can add that extra room over the garage. If this wasn't a reverse, if we didn't have, if the grading wasn't such where the garage is sunk into the ground, then the garage would have been where the living room area is. But because the garage is now into the ground, almost in effect in the basement, I have that extra square footage over the garage on the ground floor.
That's being added to the GFA, okay. So has engineering looked at it through previous applications or through this applications in terms of the reverse slope?
I know engineering has reviewed it as part of the committee process.
Okay.
And I don't believe there's any comments. I'm looking online here. I don't see any comments from engineering
Yeah,
services.
yeah. So we haven't, staff just looked at it and we didn't receive any comments. So I guess there's no issues from an engineering perspective. Okay. It slopes towards the street?
It's a 12-meter slope.
Oh, it goes out? Oh, really? I can't picture it though, but okay. Because the,
Just to give you a note, the front property line is 134.11. The back property line is 137.1.
oh, okay, okay.
So it's a 3-meter rise from the front property line to the back property line. The property rises 3 meters.
Oh, okay, it's okay. So I had it the other way. All right, got you. I'm looking at the street view now, so it makes sense. Okay. It still slopes towards, but it's a little, it goes into the grade. Okay, fair enough. Thank you. Members, any questions for Peter? Okay, all right then. If there are no questions, and I think we've given it a good time in hearing, we can now take the matter into committee. And if you want to discuss amongst yourself, or are you prepared to make a motion?
Madam Chair, my comments on this. I remember we have a thorough discussion on this in the previous meetings when this was not approved. Mr. Peter was very kind to make the changes, whatever is possible. He has tried, but the thing is, I personally don't see a significant changes in all these 3 variances, whether it's FSI or it's the 3 stories or it's the lot coverage. So I don't see there is a much change to the variances which we discussed last meeting and the committee did not approve. So I personally don't feel comfortable in supporting this case. So that's my comment.
So is your concern that there's been no significant change made to the variance, or the variance now as it's presented today? Is your concern with what it's being presented today?
What is being presented today and what we make the decision last time, it's very, still the variances are not minor.
Okay, so your concern is that, or your opinion is that the variances are not minor?
Not minor,
Okay.
yes.
Regardless of whatever the reductions or changes have been made, okay. Any other comment? And if there's no comment, can I please have a motion? Do you want to put forward a motion?
Madam Chairman, I'm going to agree with my colleague here. I think there needs to be a little bit tighter numbers here. I'm uncomfortable with the fact that the numbers seem to be moving back and forth. He doesn't quite remember. We don't know whether it's graded to the street or graded away from the street. But overall, we've still got a 3-story building on this road, and we still have a house that is at 36.8% coverage and a floor area that's 0.74 versus 0.6. So we're still dealing with an overlarge house on a very small lot. And I don't think there were sufficient changes. I see that his application was refused in January. This new application was submitted in March. I think he needs to go back to the drawing board and tighten his pencil a little bit more.
Okay, all right. Thank you for that comment, and if no further comments, may I please have a motion?
Madam Chair, I'll put forward the motion that the application be refused.
Have a seconder, please.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, so Member Macaulay seconds the motion. All in favor of this motion? The motion is carried. Mr. Jurczyk, the application has been denied. Okay. So moving on to the next item. Item number 7. This is 9 Linden Avenue. And for this application, the purpose is to construct a new 2.5-story rear and south side addition, and the existing second story and attic will be demolished and replaced with new construction. And we have with us the agent and the owner, Lucy Sharp and Aaron Dickinson.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Is that Lucy?
Oh, yes, it is. It's Lucy and Aaron's with me here as well.
Hello. Hello. Hi. So Aaron and Lucy, would you want to make a presentation on this application, or do you have to add anything to more than what's presented today?
I would like to say something, yes.
Oh, sure. Please go ahead.
Thank you. So good afternoon, Madam Chair, committee members, and staff. I'd like to speak first about variance number 1. I think that the extra 1.66% variance requested is well within what has been granted for the area that the area of the house. And I'd mostly like to spend most of the time on variance number 2 and 3 about a parking spot in the front of the house, on the front yard. I have submitted a photo of the on-site condition. If staff could please put it up. Thank you. As you can see from the photo, the parking spot looks like it's a normal spot to park in. And it came to us with a great surprise when we submitted the application for an addition that we do not in fact have a parking spot there. The side of the house has what the City of Transportation is calling a driveway, and yet our car does not fit into the driveway because that existing building is in the way. So there is, or was in the past, a garage in the back that was demolished sometime long before we owned the house, and it used to service a lane that went from behind the house. But anyway, so the City of Transportation has said that this lane is our way to, we have to park in the back, but we cannot get our car to the back. So the request is that we can have a parking spot here, a variance for a parking spot. So just for clarification, to demonstrate how much of the property is ours, we only have 4.9 meters in the front of that house, directly from the front of the house measured, that is our property. So we are basically asking for a variance of 2.2 feet on city property in order to give us the front parking. So just for clarification, as we're looking now at the site plan, you can see that it's very tight at the front, 6 foot and 11 and 3/8 inches. We cannot fit there. It does widen up near the rear. But anyway, so that's, I guess that's everything. And also just wanting to say that after the 2.2 feet of city property on the driveway, there is an additional 3.35 meters that make up the sideway and grass meridian. So, and again, we cannot move the existing building without a tremendous amount of financial hardship, which would render this home without proper parking in an area that has no street parking. We hope you will consider this. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Lucy. Members of committee, you have any questions for Lucy? Can you have the microphone on, please?
Can we see the photograph of where the existing car? Thank you. So I'm assuming, Lucy, you didn't know that part of the grass beside the sidewalk on both sides belongs to the city. Can
I
you?
didn't know.
Most people don't realize that. We just ask that
Yeah.
you cut the grass. Can you move that car right up to the building and still have space to get to around the car? In other words, can you move it up so that you're not on any portion of the city property?
Yes, we can.
And that's
Yes, we can.
a standard minivan, eh?
It's a CRV minivan, yes.
Okay.
SUV.
All right. Thank you. I have no further questions.
Thank you.
So the request before us is for the size of the parking pad, the length of it, from 5.6 to 4.9. And then the other variance is that it not be located in the front yard. So there are two pieces to the front yard pad here. One is the length and one is the location. Okay. Any questions for Lucy before we proceed to the speaker? Okay. Thank you. Lucy, just stay with us. We have a registered speaker with us, Mara Mendoza. Mara, are you on the phone with us?
Through the chair, Mara was going to just observe, and we don't have her on the line any longer.
Oh, so she will not be speaking. Okay, just observe. Okay, all right. So coming back to the committee members, would you like to, yes, please, Member Macaulay.
Yeah, Madam Chairman. This, in my mind, is kind of a difficult situation where they're caught between a rock and a hard place. I don't see that they can actually get that car in the side yard behind the building. And it's really not desirable that they have a parking overlap onto public lands, even though they don't realize that that is public lands. So that was my question. If you moved it up, is it a reasonable size car? Can you get there? I took a look at your survey. You have 4.9 meters from the front of your house to the grass part of the city property on, I guess, the north side of the sidewalk. So I think we can allow this variance. I don't see, otherwise it's an extreme hardship for these people. So I would recommend approval of this variance.
Did you see
I'm not sure
transportation?
whether there's a transportation.
Oh, yes, yes.
Recommendation for refusal.
So, well, their conclusion is that they cannot support the variances related to the parking pad located in the front yard, as well as the size. And that memo is dated July 22nd. That was included in the additional materials package yesterday.
Okay, their recommendation is refusal.
Yes.
All right.
Well, the conclusion, I wouldn't say recommendation, they conclude transportation services cannot support the above noted variances number 2 and 3.
But they're not recommending any conditions, just a straight refusal.
Yeah.
Okay.
They provide
my
comments.
motion would be that this application be approved in spite of their concern.
Okay, so, and that's a motion? Okay. So we have a motion before us. Committee members, before you second, or we have a seconder, is there anything else you want to add or say? Okay.
I put forth the motion for approval.
Yes.
Do we have a seconder?
No, I haven't asked for a seconder yet.
Oh, okay.
I saw both members thinking about it, so I paused it for a moment.
I'm just recalling that the applicant mentioned there is no way to move the location of this parking. There was no way, like?
No.
So based on the application, so Mohammed, based on the application, there's an existing 2.5-story building, right? And that is, and there's a second-story addition being proposed, okay? So if I can just add a comment, Although I know we have space to park the car in the side yard. That's just an observation on the plan. But again, we have a motion on the floor, so I'm now going to ask for a seconder. It's a tough one. And I agree with Member Macaulay, it is going to cause undue hardship to the client, but the matter of fact is that we have our experts' opinion here, which we often ask for.
Well, I think the relief is necessary, so I'm going to second Ms. Macaulay's motion to approve.
Okay, so we have a seconder to the motion. All in favor of this motion? All right, motion's carried. Your application has been approved, and I will check if there's any condition.
Through the chair, there is a condition for community planning.
Oh, yes, and Lucy, are you aware of that condition from community planning?
No.
Are we looking at the right one?
I don't see it one.
Madam Chair,
No,
no
This is
conditions.
the right.
Just bear with me.
Is there a?
9 Linden Avenue, there's no staff report, right? Okay,
Yeah.
just bear with me, Lucy.
Okay.
Transportation.
Yeah.
There is no conditions, yeah.
No.
There's none? Okay.
My apologies, no conditions.
Okay.
Thank you.
So there are no conditions, Lucy. So your application has been approved and there are no conditions.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We now move to item number 8.
Through the chair, if I could just make a quick announcement.
Please.
We are approaching our 4-hour restriction on our YouTube stream. So if I could just make a quick announcement, if that's okay?
Please go ahead.
Sure. So for all those that are currently watching on YouTube, we have a 4-hour time limit on ensuring that the meeting is closed captioned. As such, what we're going to do is we're going to end this AM session of our live stream, and we're going to restart with our PM session. So those who are watching on YouTube right now, this stream will end. So if you want to continue to watch, then please move to the July 23rd PM session. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Brian. Do we need to pause a bit? Sure. Okay.
Oh, sorry.